Thank you. Okay, everyone, welcome. I'm going to call to order the September 15th City Council meeting. Councilmember Ray has an excused absence tonight and will not be joining us. As a reminder, we continue to have a remote aspect to our meetings. Both staff and members of the public may be participating in tonight's meeting remotely via WebEx. And the next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I invite you to join. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a lot of special business this evening, which means our gallery is full, which is fun and exciting. We'll start with the first one, ID 1862, the Fishaquah Proclamation. And I'd like to invite Council President and Julie Hartwig, the Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Issaquah Chamber of Commerce, and special guest Sammy, the Salmon, to come on over to the main lectern with Council President and your guide.
Yes.
It's hard to see out of these costumes if you did not know it.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. We got to get the salmon oriented toward home. This is, how we do it.
We're spawning this way.
Yes. Well, it is always a joy to be able to give this proclamation and to invite Sammy and Julie. I'm sorry, you get second fiddle to Sammy.
This is about Sammy.
Yes, yeah. So today we are proclaiming, whereas salmon have long held a special place in the heart of our community, and whereas salmon are such a part of our heritage, they adorn the logo of our city. And whereas each fall the salmon return to our creeks and lakes, the first salmon have arrived this year at the downtown hatchery. And whereas salmon have supported countless generations of indigenous peoples and residents, and whereas their lure has driven schools of visitors to our town to learn more about our beloved salmon. And whereas the popularity of salmon has created an identity for Issaquah, which in turn has tilted the scales of commerce in our favor. I'm loving all of these puns.
Yes.
And whereas the instinctive nature to return home to spawn has instilled a strong sense of community and family, and has earned us Family Circle's accolades for one of the best towns for families in America. And whereas the soothing sound of water bubbling over smooth rocks in quaint Issaquah Creek has added to the charm that caused Sunset Magazine to recognize Issaquah as one of the best burbs in America. And whereas Salmon Days has its own infamous mascot, Sammy the Salmon, who is rising to the official occasion by welcoming visitors to join us in many happy returns in celebration of our festival's 56th year on Saturday, October 4th and Sunday, October 5th. Whereas salmon are the primary reason why our internationally award-winning Salmon Days Festival is a Seafair sanctioned event and voted Best Washington Festival for 2022 by 425 Magazine and Travel Channel. And now, therefore, I, Lindsay Walsh, on behalf of Mary Lou Pauley, the mayor of the city of Issaquah, do hereby declare in honor of the Issaquah Salmon Day Festival, the first full weekend of October each year, our salmon-friendly city shall be known as Fishaquah. Yep, we got to get the dance from Sammy and everything. Yes. But for speaking, Julie, would you like to say any words?
Council President, Mayor Pauley, and council members, thank you so much. It is an honor to be here and to accept the proclamation on behalf of the Chamber for Salmon Days. Some people say that it takes a village. We've all heard that saying. And tonight I'm going to say that it takes a community. It takes the support of the city, of our council members, of our police department, Eastside Fire and Rescue, to our sponsors, to our vendors who participate, to my wonderful, wonderful committee. It takes everyone. So I'm here to accept the proclamation, but thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Julie.
And our theme, yes. And I have pins. So I'm going to leave these with Tisha, but I have pins for this year. Our theme this year is Spawntastic. So our salmon, it has a cape because it's a hero. So there we go. All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Here,
you.
why don't I
And
take
then
these?
Sammy can go over there, and if you would like to take a photo with all
Yeah.
the council. Here.
Take those.
Don't let Sammy fall. Don't let Sammy fall. We'll come down with Sammy.
Okay. Julie, you get over here. Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah, there you go.
Our next item of special business is ID 1918, National Public Lands Day Proclamation. And I'd like to invite Councilmember Zhang and Kim Nyo, Executive Director of the Issaquah Alps Trails Club, and Becca Kendenberg and Nikki Passy from Mountain System Greenway Trust to the lectern, if you're all here. Awesome! In t-shirts. I love it.
Great. Thanks to Nikki, Becca, and Kim for all being here. Great, so whereas National Public Lands Day is celebrated annually on the fourth Saturday in September and is the nation's largest single-day volunteer event for public lands, encouraging stewardship, restoration, and enjoyment of our shared outdoor spaces, and whereas the 2025 theme, Our Home Outdoors, emphasizes that public lands are more than just scenic landscapes, and they deserve care and respect as vital spaces for recreation, reflection, learning, and connection. And whereas the city of Issaquah sits on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Snoqualmie tribe, who have lived in and cared for these lands and waters since time immemorial, and we honor their enduring relationship to the land and their ongoing contributions to environmental stewardship. And whereas proximity to the Issaquah Alps and Lake Sammamish offer abundant access to trails, forests, and waterways that serve as essential community assets and natural habitats, and whereas local organizations such as the Issaquah Alps Trails Club and the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust work in partnership with local agencies and volunteers to enhance our trails, restore our native ecosystems, and promote equitable access to nature. And whereas public lands in Washington state are made even more accessible on this day through the state's Discover Pass Free Day, encouraging all residents to enjoy and care for the parks, forests, and public spaces that unite us. Now therefore I, Councilmember Kelly Jang, on behalf of Mayor Mary Lou Pauley, Mayor of the City of Issaquah, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September 27th, 2025 as National Public Lands Day. And I encourage all community members to participate in volunteer events, enjoy our natural spaces, and deepen their connection to our home outdoors. So Kim, Becca, and Nikki, would you like to say a few words and potentially let people know about some of the volunteer events happening on National Public Lands Day?
Coaching.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. On behalf of the Issaquah Alps Trails Club, I'm honored to accept this proclamation recognizing National Public Lands Day. For over four decades, IATC has worked to conserve, steward, and celebrate the incredible public lands that surround Issaquah, from building and maintaining trails to advocating for permanent conservation. Our lands are more than just scenic backdrops. They're vital spaces for recreation, habitat, and community connection. We deeply appreciate the city's partnership and continued recognition of the value of our community connection. Together, we can ensure that Issaquah's public lands remain accessible for generations to come. During the weekend of Public Lands Day on Saturday, the 27th, we have two hikes being led by Park Range, City of Issaquah Urban Forest Supervisor Dan Hintz and Park Ranger Alex Anderson. We also have a restoration event the following Tuesday, the 30th, to restore Squawk Mountain, which, as you know, was destroyed by the bomb cyclone, but since then we've actively worked to restore some of the trails there, and I will be leading a hike on Grand Ridge Trail as well. So thank you very much.
Oh, Kim, If people want to attend these events, where should they go to learn more?
You can sign up for our newsletter, which is on our website, issaquahalps.org, or just register on our calendar there as well. Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much. This is such an honor. We are so grateful to be situated in Issaquah with one of our main offices and get to work so closely with this landscape and this community. And what was I going to say? You said, I mean, ditto. That was beautiful. So I want to echo everything you said, and just grateful to work with partners like Issaquah Helps Trails Club. The Greenway has been doing restoration, education, and advocacy work in Issaquah for over 20 years, and we've worked with over 20,000 volunteers to install 50,000 trees and shrubs, which feels like a lot because it is. And we'd love for you to be part of the next phase of that. So Nikki's going to share about what we have coming up.
So the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust is actually about 1.5 million acres, so we extend much beyond the city of Issaquah, although as Becca said, we have a base here. We do a ton of work at Lake Sammamish State Park. So I'd like to just let you all know real quick that this year our National Public Lands Day events are focused just on the other side of Snoqualmie Pass in the Cle Elum Valley, as well as up the Menashtash Canyon. So we have a series of events varying tasks from cleaning and installing picnic tables and fire rings, restoring a historic guard station, removing derelict fencing, and also clearing trails, removing down trees, and improving drainage. So if any of that sounds fun or exciting to you, please check out Mountains to Sound, or mtsgreenway.org is our website. We also have a film festival the night before, hosted by Central Washington University, where we'll be looking at resilience projects across Kittitas County. So there's a lot of cool stuff to get involved with that weekend, and we hope to see some folks who like to come recreate on the other side of the mountains come to give back a little bit. Thanks for your time.
Okay, now we got to do a picture. So Kim, I'll give you one of these. And I'll give you the other one. So you have to open it and hold it open. Then I think we stand.
Thank you very much. The next item of special business is ID 1854, the Hispanic Heritage Month Proclamation. And I'd like to invite Councilmember Joe and Pia Castaneras, Iracema Ruiz, Celine Soto, and Irma Arena, members of the Circle, to come up to the lectern. Thank you all for coming.
Hello, thank you for joining us. I'm so pleased that we could read this on September 15th, the first day of National Hispanic Heritage Month. I also want to thank you for all the work the Circle has done, especially during the bomb cyclone, when you were providing interpreter services for our Hispanic community and for my Chinese community as well. We had, in a prior disaster or emergency, some of the people in the International District that were using charcoal stoves for heat, and they asphyxiated. But because you were there to provide information and translation services, I think that people survived the bomb cyclone and came through much better because you were there, so thank you. Proclamation. Whereas each year Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15 to October 15 by celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Spanish-speaking nations of the Caribbean. And whereas according to the 2020 census, the Hispanic population of the United States was 62.1 million people, making people of Hispanic origin the nation's largest ethnic or racial minority, 18.9% of the total U.S. population. Whereas Issaquah's diversity and Hispanic population have increased over the last 30 years, from 1990, when 95% of the residents were white and only 2% Hispanic Latino, to more recent times, 59.8% of the residents are white and 7.1% are Hispanic Latino. And whereas we commit to embracing diversity and inclusion by paying tribute to Hispanic and Latino heritage through education, acknowledgement, and celebration within our community, And whereas the 2005 theme, Collective Heritage, Honoring the Past, Inspiring the Future, highlights the lasting impact of Hispanic and Latin communities whose resilience, leadership, and cultural richness have helped to shape our society. And whereas this month offers a time to honor the past, celebrate the present, and build a future where Hispanic and Latin American voices are valued and upheld and uplifted. Now therefore, Mary Lou Pauley, Mayor of the City of Issaquah, is hereby proclaimed September 15 through October 15, 2025 to be Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Issaquah. And all of us urge the community to join in special observance and celebration of Hispanic Latino heritage. Would one of you like to speak?
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone. I just want to say, and as she said earlier, that it takes a village to raise our kids, but it really, I believe exactly what she said, that it takes a good city. And I want to just say that the circle, on behalf of everybody, we are so grateful and honored to be part of you. I mean, it's amazing the support and everything. Every time we need something, you guys are right behind us. So we are incredible, thankful for every time that you guys are help us, support us, and every time we need something, all we have to do is look, and you guys are there for us. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. We accept this.
We'll go ahead and take a picture over here.
Thank you, Councilmember Joe. The next item under special business is ID 1857, Diaper Need Awareness Week Proclamation, and I'd like to invite Deputy Council President Dee Michelle and KidVantage Director of Development Community Relations, Helen Banks-Rutan, if she's here tonight, and Board Member Michelle Steffen, all to the lectern. Welcome, ladies. And I'm missing one name in here then, aren't I? I did not.
Susan Corney.
And Susan Corney.
Thank you. Well, first of all, this is a real honor to be able to present this to representatives from KidVantage. Just a reminder that that organization was started by Karen Ridlon, who was an Issaquah resident and has become a force throughout the Puget Sound. So we're very honored to have you with us. So here's the proclamation for diaper needs. Diaper needs, the condition of not being able to afford a sufficient supply of clean diapers to ensure that infants and toddlers are clean, healthy, and dry, can adversely affect the health and welfare of infants, toddlers, and their families. And whereas national surveys and research studies report that nearly 1 in 2 families struggle with diaper need, and 48% of families delay changing a diaper to extend the available supply. And whereas the average infant or toddler requires an average of 50 diaper changes per week over 3 years, and sometimes it seems like more. And whereas there are no government assistance programs for the purchase or provision of diapers, and a monthly supply of diapers can cost as much as 8% of a full-time minimum wage worker's salary. Therefore, obtaining a sufficient supply of diapers can cause economic hardship to families. And whereas a supply of diapers is generally an eligibility requirement to participate in childcare and quality early education programs that enable children to thrive and parents to work. And whereas the people of Issaquah recognize that diaper need is a public health issue, and addressing diaper need can lead to economic opportunity for the state's families and communities and improved health for children, thus ensuring all children and families have access to the necessities required to thrive and reach their full potential. And whereas Issaquah is proud to be home to various community organizations that recognize the importance of diapers in helping provide economic stability for families and distribute diapers to low-income families through various channels. And whereas through their important work of addressing diaper need, diaper banks play a critical role in supporting families improving infant health and well-being, and advancing our local and state economic growth. And now, therefore, I, Barb D. Michelle, on behalf of Mary Lou Pauley, the mayor of the city of Issaquah, do hereby proclaim the week of September 15th through the 21st, 2025, to be Diaper Need Awareness Week in the city of Issaquah, and encourage all residents to donate generously to diaper banks, diaper drives, and those organizations that distribute diapers to families in need to help alleviate diaper need in Issaquah and environs. So thank you. Helen, would you like to say some things? And others are welcome as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council Member and Mayor Pauley and the rest of the council. And our sincere thanks as KidVantage to the wonderful support for the city of Issaquah. This is KidVantage's 35th year of providing services, making sure that all of their children in our region have the tangible goods that they need to survive and to thrive. We're very appreciative of this opportunity for having Diaper Need Awareness proclaimed week here in Issaquah. You heard a lot of statistics in that proclamation. It is a persistent challenge faced by families in Issaquah, in King County, in Washington, and across the nation. I recently heard from one of the housing case managers that works with KidVantage. She said, diapers matter and mean more than we may ever realize. They seem like a small thing, but when you are without them, it makes all the difference. Because diapers are essential, they're expensive, and they can lead to detrimental health concerns for the children if kids don't have sufficient diapers. And we also know that in addition to all those other things that you heard, that parents, adult caregivers, behavioral health is adversely affected when they're unable to care for their children, including providing diapers. And we also know that they're not covered by any federal assistance programs. Another provider said, providing diapers through KidVantage allows us to support families in a more complete and dignified way. Food is essential, but meeting basic hygiene needs like diapers helps families stay stable. It builds trust and lets parents know they're not alone. We find it would take an average of 4.8 billion diapers each year to fill the gap between what families need and what they're able to afford. Diaper banks like KidVantage do help fill that gap. This year, we expect to distribute more than 1.5 million diaper changes to kids in this area. One last quote from an Issaquah school provider. Just this week, she was dealing with a single mom of 5 kids who had come into the school. She was in crisis. They'd become homeless, and she had lost all of the family's belongings. She was struggling to have the gasoline she needed to transport the 3 kids from where they were staying that were the ones in school. This provider from the school district was able to request an emergency order of diapers and clothing from KidVantage. And so then the mom was able to focus on other community needs, support resources for her needs. And she recognized that KidVantage had helped build a bridge of trust, and that helped the schools in our community be safe places where families experience firsthand that the people in their community genuinely care for children and their families, and that's evidence here tonight. Thank you.
I'm Michelle Steffen, board member for KidVantage, also an Issaquah resident. I'm deeply honored for the council support to be able to actually recognize Diaper Need Awareness Week. Is such a big need for our community, as Helen pointed out, and so we're actually really grateful for all your support.
Picture time.
You want to go? We'll go in front.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Council President. The next item of special business today is ID 1853 with the very interesting name of Constitution Day Proclamation. and you will learn from the proclamation what that really is. I'd like to invite Councilmember Tola Martz and Issaquah Municipal Court Judicial Specialist Nikki Meister and Georgia Deping to the lectern. And I believe we also have Marisol Visser, our therapeutic court coordinator, and Anna Van, our probation case manager. Did I miss anybody or did I catch you all? Okay, we're missing one. Councilmember Martz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the United States Constitution has shaped the progress, values, and laws of this country, Washington State, and the city of Issaquah. And whereas September 17th is commonly known as Constitution Day and Citizenship Day to commemorate the signing of the U.S. Constitution in Philadelphia on September 17th, 1787. And whereas the city of Issaquah strives to embody the values espoused in the Constitution, empower citizens to participate in government, and abide by its laws and promise, and whereas the Issaquah Municipal Court plays a vital role in upholding the Constitution, establishing and maintaining public trust and confidence through jurisprudence and consistent service to the Issaquah community, including the delivery of court services to the cities of Duval, North Bend, and Snoqualmie. Whereas it is appropriate to acknowledge and thank Issaquah Municipal Court staff on this celebration of the 238th anniversary of the Constitution signing, now therefore, I, Tola Martz,
It's so complicated, just do it.
Mary Lou Pauley, the mayor of Issaquah, does hereby proclaim September 17th, 2025 to be Constitution Day in the city of Issaquah, and I invite the community to join me in thanking the Issaquah's Municipal Court employees for their service and outstanding contributions and the vital role they play in upholding the Constitution. In witness whereof, the mayor signed herefore her hand and seal of the city of Issaquah on this 15th day of September, 2025.
Thank you, Councilmember Rose. Ladies, would you like to address the?
I'll just keep it short. I know you guys have a busy night tonight. We just wanted to say on behalf of our entire team, thank you for recognizing the court. We're really proud of the work that we do, and we love serving our community.
Fantastic.
Don't go away.
Dragged up. For the next two proclamations, I'm going to be doing the presentation and I will head over to the lectern. These are ID 1855 first, Information Technology Professionals Day Proclamation, and ID 1852nd after that, the Human Resources Professional Day Proclamation. And this is an opportunity for our council and our community to recognize the amazing professionals that we have working for us on behalf of our community. Is Gus here tonight? Oh, hi. I'm just scanning the room, Gus. So I would like to invite Chief Information Officer Gus Taiwana, IT Supervisor Andrew Griffin, Project Manager Kevin Tam, and Autumn, are you joining them? And Autumn Monahan, the director for this group. Whereas National Information Technology Professionals Day is celebrated on the third Tuesday of every September to recognize the technical experts that ensure our computer and communication systems operate smoothly and effectively. And whereas technology continues to evolve, and IT professionals help navigate these changes to provide efficient, inclusive, and communicative service to the employees and residents of the city of Issaquah. And whereas behind every technology stands, often silently and invisibly, IT professionals, technicians, analysts, developers, architects, engineers, administrators, managers, and directors who have been content to work behind the scenes to enable innovation and productivity. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic is a great example of Issaquah's IT team acting with foresight, preparation, and expediency, allowing staff to resume remote services to the public with very limited disruption. And whereas the city of Issaquah wishes to show appreciation for its IT professionals, Now therefore, I, the real Mary Lou Polly, Mayor of the City of Issaquah, do recognize September 16th, 2025 to be Information Technology Professionals Days. And I would like to see if you'd like to address the group. Thank you, Autumn.
On behalf of the IT team, thank you so much for this honor. I have the privilege of working with this amazing group of public servants who Gus just now helped me join the WebEx meeting, so didn't have to file a ticket, but this group handles thousands of help desk tickets. They also provide 24/7 support for critical systems, including for a police department that has a jail, a 911 dispatch center, and patrol. So it's 24/7 support. This team also provides so much project management on an insane amount of projects that they're working on right now that help with efficiency, communication, and security. And I'm just so grateful for your service. Thank you.
Yes, want to do a picture? I'm about 500 of the call help tickets that go through. Okay. One more, hang in with us. I would like to call up, is our HR director here? No, she's virtual. There's Stephanie, she's up on the screen waving. Do we have Lisa Gould and Jennifer Zink with us today? Awesome, come on up, ladies. Welcome, Stephanie, I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies. Whereas Human Resources Professional Day is celebrated around the world to recognize the important contributions of human resources professionals, and whereas human resources professionals are vital to the function, efficiency, and harmony of a modern workforce, and whereas human resources professionals develop policies and procedures to keep the workforce safe, increase connection, and resolve conflict, and whereas human resources professionals lead the workforce in establishing a safe, welcoming, and positive workplace by implementing trainings that advance equity, ensure compliance with local and federal laws, and advance personal growth and career development. And whereas the coronavirus pandemic has changed the workplace at the City of Issaquah and around the world and impacted staffing, safety, health, and regular operations, and whereas Issaquah's HR team has adapted swiftly and consistently in response to ever-changing pandemic conditions, and whereas our human resources professionals serve the public by recruiting, retaining, and training the best talent of the City of Issaquah, I now proclaim, as Gaines, the mayor of the City of Issaquah, to recognize September 26, 2025 as Human Resources Professional Day, and want to thank this amazingly strong team. Stephanie, would you like to say anything about your team?
I would love to. Thank you, Mayor Polly. It's really an honor to receive this proclamation. I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I am recovering from COVID. HR analyst Carmen Chamberlain is absent tonight as well, but I'm really happy that Lisa Gould, HR coordinator, and Jennifer Zink, HR analyst, could be there. Both joined the HR team in 2024, and they've just been fabulous additions to our small but mighty team. I just want to take a quick minute to brag about some of the accomplishments of this team because they really are small but mighty. This team currently supports 485 people on payroll. 283 of those are full-time, and we have another 202 part-time non-regular staff. Year to date, they've overseen 84 recruitment or civil service processes. That means hundreds of job postings and almost 3,000 applications for city employment that we are screening for and working with departments to fill. The team has processed 1,143 personnel actions. This means engaging with employees and supervisors behind those actions to support their employment. We have onboarded 69 full-time new hires and 149 part-time non-regular, bringing that number to 218 so far this year. In addition, we've helped to separate or transition 148 employees, 43 full-timers. That includes exit interviews, and then certainly the churn of 105 part-time non-regular. In addition to some of those stats, we've taken in 42 risk management claims as the risk management office. And not to remiss our attention on retention and the employee experience plan, we've conducted 24 stay interviews year to date so that we understand what is keeping people here employed at the city. You know that we negotiated our first dispatch contract this year, making our 8th union in the city. And we continue to work on enhancing growth and development for all staff. We launched our first supervisor training plan, and we've helped to cycle employees through 336 total trainings year to date. We've also helped to support connection and recognition. So far this year, we've facilitated 7 citywide employee events. This fall, we're preparing for additional trainings, some additional class comp maintenance work, open enrollment, remaining negotiations, the pumpkin derby, and some of those employee recognition things that we all love while we continue to fill recruitments. But I'm super proud of this team. As a small team, we have to support each other closely. Just today, Lisa and Jennifer, a great idea of running around and helping to support an event going on tomorrow morning that they were not tasked with before this morning, and then attending council tonight. So I really appreciate how this team works together and pivots. So thank you again for the recognition, and I'll stop there and see if Lisa and Jennifer would like to add anything.
Nods, no, but thank you. And I was hoping if you hadn't mentioned small and mighty at least 3 times, I was going to mention it 3 times. That is an incredible body of work, and we are so grateful for how you have supported our wonderful employees and staff teams so that we can provide the best services that we can. So Stephanie, thanks so much. And we're going to do a picture with you on the big screen, so just kind of change the angle. So come on
Okay,
up.
thank you. Do not feel like you need me in the picture.
We are now going to move into audience comments, and this is the time when members of the public may address the council in person or virtually. Those who signed up in advance to make comments will be called on first. If you're joining us virtually and would like to make comments, please raise your virtual hand or send the host a chat message. If you're on the phone, press *3. If you're joined by a computer or smartphone, look for a hand icon. And if you're in the room and didn't sign up, just wave your hands and we'll make sure that we get to you before we end the meeting. City Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak for general audience comments?
Mayor, no one has signed up to speak, and we do have a few members of the public with us virtually, but I'm not seeing either of them raise their hand at this time.
We do have one person in the room. Okay, so for those making comments, you're invited to address the council regarding matters that are directly related to Issaquah's programs, projects, services, or events. Comments related to political campaigns are not permitted. Please direct the comments to the whole council and not individuals, and while this is not a question and answer session, we'll follow up if we need to. So for folks, if you are online and you raise your hand, I'll read some additional directions, but if you're in the room, please move to the podium that's in the center and press the button on the center of the bottom of the console so we can all hear you. If you are attending virtually and making comments and do not respond after your name or phone number is called, or if your connection is lost unexpectedly, the meeting will still need to proceed, and we encourage you to rejoin. Personal attacks, obscene language, derogatory remarks, and disruptive behavior will not be permitted. And public comments, both written and verbal, are an important aspect of the public process. The city takes the comments seriously, and we thank everyone for taking time to address us tonight. If we do not see any hands online, I am going to go to the gentleman in the front row and ask you to come on up to the microphone and identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Smith. I am an Issaquah resident, lived here for over 30 years. I run a Issaquah volunteer litter cleanup program. It's a grassroots organization. We meet the first Saturday of every month at 9 o'clock. We meet at the post office parking lot on Northwest Gilman. I'd like to encourage everybody that's listening to attend. Our next event is October 4th, which is the day of Salmon Days, but we'll meet and move out from there. So we generally meet for approximately 5 or 10 minutes, make a plan, move out from there. We request that you bring your own trash bags and gloves. We do have a few litter pickers that you can borrow, and it's a very fun event, and we get a lot of new people here and there, and just like to remind people in the city to come out and join us. Thank you.
Jonathan, thanks for all you do. Any other members of the audience tonight in the room that would like to speak? Raise your hand. Not seeing any. Any indication online? Great. Well, thank you for coming and reminding us about this amazing volunteer opportunity that you provide, Jonathan. You do a great job communicating with the council on what's going on, where you're doing it, and who's showing up, and it's just wonderful to see volunteerism like that. Thank you for your comments, and just remember, written comments can always be submitted to council at any time at citycouncil@issaquah.gov. We're going to move into the consent calendar, and I do not have any remarks on the consent calendar, but I would like to give the committee chairs or chair designees who, if there are any items that you would like to report on the consent calendar. I'm not seeing an indication of that. So the consent calendar was distributed to council in advance, and if authorized, the items on the consent calendar will be considered together and approved by one motion. Have the payables and payroll been reviewed?
Yes.
They have.
Thank you very much. Does any council member desire to remove any item from the consent calendar and consider it under regular business? Not seeing any indication to do so. Can we get a motion?
Yes. I move we approve the consent calendar as distributed.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? That carries 6-0. Thank you very much. We're going to move into regular business. Big excitement. AB 9042, Public Safety and Civic Facilities Task Force Report. The council's action this evening will be to receive the report. And I'd like to invite Administrative Services Director Autumn Monahan to present this item. We will also be having members from the task force as well presenting, and I'm sure that Autumn's going to handle the order and who is coming up.
Where did my IT support go? Apologies, just 1 second. Great, thank you for your patience. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Autumn Monahan. I'm the Administrative Services Director. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to present the Public Safety and Civic Facilities Task Force recommendations. So purpose of tonight is to receive the task force recommendations and provide some initial feedback. Our agenda tonight is an overview of the task force's work. I'll cover briefly some survey data. Then you'll hear from the task force members on their recommendations. We'll also present on some concepts for the proposed police renovation and view a few of the site assessments for potential City Hall locations. Just as a reminder, these are the goals that the Council adopted for this project back in 2023 to ensure safety, responsibly steward public dollars, provide community accessibility and convenience, support economic development, deliver enhanced community amenities, and embody environmental stewardship. These were the same goals that we started each of our task force meetings with. As a reminder, as far as the timeline, our most recent efforts around space planning started in 2023 with a needs study. In 2024, we then started shaping up a phased approach to tackle our space needs, and the City Council then expressed a desire and a need for public engagement, which is something that we had not started yet. So that included input from a large community task force. The Council then confirmed a task force and their work plan on January 13th, along with pausing on any long-term planning for Fire Station 71 while we did that work. So our task force work plan, which again was adopted by the Council in early January, includes reviewing the work to date on the city's facility needs, prioritizing our identified facility needs, refining those long-term plans, evaluating options for a potential ballot measure, providing feedback for community engagement, and then delivering recommendations to the mayor and the City Council. So here's our task force. So we recruited heavily for this group on social media, our website, email, direct contact with a lot of our boards and commissions, and we tapped shoulders of a lot of community partners. So this task force is the largest in our recent memory. There were 21 members. By the end of our meetings, we had 18. Some did have conflicts with scheduling throughout the year, but it was still a very large group. They represent neighborhoods, the school district, boards and commissions, local nonprofits, businesses, and we also had council members Tola Martz and Zach Hall participating. Oh, and there's several who are in the audience today, if you want to raise your hand. Thank you so much for your service. All right, so this task force, before we even started our work, took tours, and we staggered these tours for them to see our cramped facilities, specifically in police. They also got a tour of our jail and some of our City Hall facilities to see firsthand our space needs before meeting. We then had 7 in-person meetings that spanned from March to July, facilitated by 2 co-chairs who you'll meet here in a moment. And the group was staffed by administrative services as well as consultants from DLR Group, who you'll also hear from later this evening. So before I hand this over to the task force, so you hear their recommendations, I did want to present a bit more community feedback we've received since I've last been before you. It's been a while, which also really helped inform the task force work. So we had our community survey this year, and that was a really great opportunity to pull some of that data out as we're looking at what the community's priorities are. As a reminder, police service was the 4th most important service to our community. If you remember, there was also that importance satisfaction rating. And the top ones were traffic, land use, and maintenance of streets. Police service was 8th in that importance satisfaction combo. A top priority for city leadership and services in the next 2 years is value received for your local tax dollars and fees. And the most preferred way to access city services was our website at 90%. However, 60% still said they wanted an in-person option. Along with our statistically valid survey, which we do every other year, we also launched an online survey as part of the task force's work. So they helped in us drafting some questions and some topics to really go out to the community and dive deeper on space needs. So this was heavily promoted online. We had 268 responses. The majority of people who did participate were residents, followed by professional services, businesses, and local organizations. 75% said yes or maybe to utilizing facilities for an event or a meeting. And close to half said they preferred for City Hall to be located in Old Town. Half of the residents also said, or sorry, respondents also said they are aware of Issaquah Police's space needs. A couple more quick stats from that spring survey. What city services, excluding police, should be provided in person, and overwhelmingly it was just general questions and customer support, which is what we hear from our staff as well. The second was human services, and I think my guess is people thought that was also like customer service versus our human services division. And then third was permitting. As the city plans for its future facilities, what was most important to respondents were offering more event spaces for community and nonprofit organizations. That feedback has not changed over the years. Coming in a close second was providing some in-person customer support. And with that, I'm really pleased to present our task force co-chairs, Eric Olener, who's joining us virtually, and Mike Brennan to share the task force recommendations.
Good evening, Mayor Pauley, members of the council. It is a pleasure to be here tonight to represent the task force and share our report and recommendations to the council. I do just want to pause for a minute and say thank you to the task force members that I had the opportunity to work with, those that are here and those that are not, and my co-chair, Eric Olener, who's joining us virtually. What an incredible group of people, very productive discussions, very engaged, shared opinions, shared suggestions, and it was really a lot of fun too. So I think we enjoyed our time together. I also want to just recognize staff as well, Autumn Monahan and Jeannie Justice for their support, as well as Lori Kupenrath from DLR Consultants. They did an incredible amount of lifting, providing us information, answering questions, and really helping us move along through all of the information to get to our recommendations. Next slide. So we did, as Autumn mentioned, we held 7 meetings starting in March through July. And we spent time at those meetings early on, really focusing on learning about the city's needs, what facility spaces were currently available. We reviewed a lot of survey information. We toured City Hall and the administrative area, as well as the police department, which was very eye-opening. Clearly, the needs of the police department surfaced very quickly in our discussions to an area that really needs to be addressed soon, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. There are clearly necessary improvements there, and the sooner that those improvements can be made, I think the better. We also had an opportunity to discuss the police department needs with Chief Paula Schwan and her team members that joined us at a meeting, an opportunity to understand their needs, questions, and answers. That was very helpful as well to more deeply dive into the current situation at police, as well as their long-term needs as they're looking years ahead at the changing in police services. We've reviewed current city properties that might be available for construction of a new City Hall facility. We also got a lesson in finance, Municipal Finance 101 by Deputy City Administrator Andrea Snyder. Learned about city's revenues, where money's being spent, budget challenges, and we talked about funding options, including a process for a voted bond measure, which would very likely be necessary to advance construction of new facilities for the city. We've developed a set of priorities, and I'll talk a bit more about those in just a minute, that really guided our work until we reached to our final recommendations for the council. We explored a number of opportunities for construction of a new City Hall and also remodeling the current City Hall facility for additional police space. We talked about in depth the need for a robust community outreach and learned about the public engagement toolkit that the city has developed, which is a really remarkable tool. As we went through that, I think it's will be very helpful here. And then finally, we developed our final recommendations for the council. Next slide. So here are the priorities. This graph, it really represents kind of those things that we thought as a task force were important for our consideration as we advance these recommendations or advance this work forward. This graph shows the smallest number is the highest priority, the highest number, those things that were of less but still important for consideration. So very quickly through the graph, it's the number one item there on the far left is addressing the police needs. Space needs is an urgent need in the eyes of the task force. Really to maximize the use of city-owned facilities and city-owned properties in future expansion. So really leveraging what the city already has. Really to phase implementation within city means. Clearly that would be necessary at some level as you think about all of the moving parts. To minimize the impact to the police operations and as the work advances here, clearly this work would be disruptive as you remodel and add new facilities to the city. Co-locating customer service in the same location at City Hall. The city has a great reputation for high level of customer service, and we didn't want it to become disjointed. It's much more efficient and much easier for the customers of the city to have one location or one stop to get what they need. Providing community meeting space, we heard the feedback from the surveys that is really an under-met need in the city of Issaquah. So that is something that in the facilities expansion discussions, we really worked to integrate that in, and you'll see a little bit more about that later in our presentation. Initially leaning toward, discussions were leaning toward locating City Hall in Old Town, specifically on this site. We'll hear more details about the discussions and prioritization around potential location for City Hall, future City Hall sites as well tonight. And then wanted to make sure that the new city facilities are located near other services like parks and open space, so you can really leverage the benefits of co-locating civic and city facilities together to create community space, places where people can gather, celebrate, and enjoy, as well as do business with the city as necessary. So with that, next slide. We did talk about several and explore several site locations for future City Hall, including the Pickering site, here the South City Hall site on this property. We looked at the WeWork space, we looked at Tibbetts Manor or Tibbetts Park, and the final one was the At-Work, sorry, fine print there, the At-Work site or property as another location. In the end, the two that really emerged as viable sites were really the City Hall site, this property, and exploring an option on the Pickering site as well. Next slide. So with that, the recommendations that we really arrived at that we think are important for advancing this work and meeting those future city facility needs for the city, and hopefully provide some guidance to your decision making as you continue to deliberate and explore this was I believe there are 8 recommendations here. First of all, addressing police space and operational needs. That one obviously surfaced to the top. You saw, I'm sure if you've been through the police department, you've probably seen that firsthand. There is really a compelling need to increase the efficiency of operation, give them the space to operate, and also help with recruitment and retention. You want to have nice facilities for staff and a reputation for a great place to work, and part of that is the facilities that you provide for those staff. To relocate City Hall operations and develop a plan to construct a new City Hall. So the recommendation from the task force is really to expand the footprint of the police department into the existing City Hall building and remove or relocate the administrative and executive staff and construct a new City Hall to support that effort. And then again, remodel the 130th Street or the current City Hall building on Sunset for use by police and public safety functions for the city. Next slide. For further study, there were 2 locations, again, that really surfaced as most viable for a future City Hall. This property, which had a slight, I guess, majority of the task force, and Pickering as a close second. Both of these sites look like viable options, but more exploration is necessary to reach a final conclusion on what makes most sense. We'll share a little bit more details on each of those sites here in just a few minutes when Lori Kupenrath from DLR will walk us through some of the exploration work that was done for us as we had those discussions. Next slide. We also want to develop a comprehensive funding strategy. It really goes with the other recommendation here, and that is really phasing the project. A comprehensive solution is necessary here, both from a financial standpoint, from an operational standpoint, and the logistics, and then also just from purely from a construction standpoint. So really thinking about this holistically, I think, is going to be important, or the task force thinks is important for the council to consider as you advance this, instead of trying to do it in a piecemeal way, but really come up with a comprehensive strategy, maybe a multi-year strategy most likely, to advance this, but really look at it holistically as you advance the work to meet future city facility needs. Next slide. And again, as I mentioned, really a robust public outreach is going to be necessary. Really making the case for the need, the why behind what the city wants to do here to meet that need, is really to gain that community support. I think it's going to be critical, obviously, to advance a bond measure and to really engage people in what this future could look like when it comes to the city and the value that quality city facilities bring to the community as a part of the reputation and part of meeting city needs. And then probably don't need to say this one, but we added it, is really remaining flexible and open to new opportunities that may emerge that were not seen. We were looking at the information that's currently available today. Things change in the future. Obviously, it's at the council's discretion to consider other opportunities that may emerge in the near term. But again, plotting a path, a comprehensive solution is what the task force feels is needed to really be successful here. So with that, we're going to walk through. I'm going to have, I believe, Lori join here and walk through some of the details, a little bit more of the details on the City Hall site, as well as the remodel options for the police department. Thank you.
Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Lori Koppenrath. I'm with DLR Group. We're an architecture, engineering, planning, and interiors firm who plans justice and civic facilities just like this across the country. I personally live here in Seattle, and I've been doing this for 27 years as of tomorrow. So, yeah. So looking at your facilities, if you want to go to the next slide. We started by talking to each of the groups. So we talked to everybody not everybody, but we talked to a lot of people in the police department, and we came up with a square foot need of about 30,000 square feet for their functions alone, keeping in mind the building is not that big. So they are definitely outliving their space. Also keeping in mind this is a 20-year planning horizon, so we were looking forward to not just what they need today, but what they might need in 20 years. And 20 years is about as far as we go for a planning horizon, because after that it's kind of just nonsense. Some might say 20 years is a nonsense, but it's a standard practice for us to go out to 20 years. So all of these spaces have that built in, and that includes additional workspaces, storage space, those sorts of things. Next slide. So the renovation concepts that we looked at were, first of all, any costs you're going to see are a rough order of magnitude. They're not done by a professional cost estimating service. It's based on our prior history. The planning diagrams that you're going to see are proof of concept. They are not design documents. We can't go into constructing tomorrow because of these diagrams. Some site changes will need to support whatever remodel options are implemented. Interesting opportunities came up talking to the police. We could rearrange where people enter the jail by moving it around to the back potentially, and then only use the elevator that goes down there if an ADA issue comes up. The police department prioritized access control in a secure lobby, locker rooms, fitness spaces, evidence storage, and having a distinct area for each function, whereas now everything happens in the same space all at the same time. And then a final design, I'm going to show you two options. One's the least expensive, one's the most comprehensive. The final design will probably be somewhere between the two as you move forward through the design process. So the most cost-effective we looked at, generally speaking, we tried to keep at least 50% of the existing walls in this situation, but it does include new finishes, new HVAC system as needed, those sorts of things, and moving less than 50% of the walls around. The total project cost range, so I want to be very clear about what total project cost is. There's two components to cost. There's a construction cost, which is what you would pay a contractor, and then there's a soft cost, which is your other expenses that include sales tax, A&E, architecture and engineering fees, special testing, permitting, those sort of fixtures, furniture, and equipment. So if you turn a building upside down and shook it, anything that falls out, you have to pay out of your soft cost. So this is a combined cost for construction costs as well as total project cost. As well as soft cost to get to your total project cost. And in Q2 of 2025, we'll estimate that as between $15 and $21 million. And then if you escalate that out to 2030, it would be between $17.8 and $26.4 million. And then the most comprehensive pretty much was wiping out anything that wasn't structurally required. So that project would cost you anywhere in today's dollars between 24.1 and 26.4 million, or 31 to 38.2 million in 2030. And then moving on to City Hall, again, we talked to lots of folks. Some folks in this room is a good time. And we got to about 34,400 for the total space needs for City Hall, and that included about 10,000 square feet of meeting spaces that could be shared between staff and the community depending on hours of operation. So if we had after hours functions there for the community, they could take place in spaces that the staff use during the day. Then we looked at some sites for City Hall. These are them. So we have Senior Center, City Hall South, Fire Station 71, Pickering, At Work, and Tibbetts, as was discussed earlier. So the City Hall South complex and the duplex here is a relatively small site, about 21,000 square feet. So keep in mind, 21,000 square feet site and a 34,000 square foot building, meaning that we're going to have to think about how we deploy that on the site. Also considering that City Hall and the duplex have two different zonings, so we have to think about how to use those two sites together. So if you go to the next slide. Our considerations for this site was that it's in the 500-year floodplain. It has Old Town design standards. There are no current environmental issues that we know of. It's a cultural and business district zoning with a height limit of whichever is lesser of 40 feet or 3 stories. Only this site was used in the test fit. We did not use the duplex site. We assume that would be potentially parking. And then further study and estimates needed for solving the parking issue here in Old Town. So the approximate footprint of the city using this site is 11,400 square feet for the footprint. So that's just what the first floor takes up on the site. The approximate building height is 40 feet. Now what this does is that it's a 3-story building, and a 40-foot height means that we're going to have a shorter floor-to-floor height than a typical office building might. So we're only at 12.3 for a floor-to-floor height. So that means your ceilings are going to be a little bit lower in this building because we need to have space to run ductwork and whatnot up there and structure. So this is a little bit more squished to get it within that zoning. And then the construction cost, $29.5 to $35.5 million in 2025 dollars, with a total project cost of $44 to $53 million for a new building. And so this is just some diagrams about what it would look like on this site. So it's not going to look anything like it would in terms of today. You walk into this kind of park-like area here. This would be a little bit more grand of a building on this site. with the community functions on the bottom and the city hall functions on the second and third floor. And then these are just a little bit of what it might look like. I just want to be very clear, this is not a design, this is just this is a building plopped on your site, and you would have to go through a whole design process to get what it would be like for y'all. The next site was Pickering, and that's a much larger site. We'd only use a portion of it, but it's 235,000 square feet, so got a little bit more space to work with. But keeping in mind that it's a natural open grassy field, so we don't want to take it all over with pavement and building. Next slide. So it is in the 100-year floodplain, which means we would have to raise it up out of that 100-year floodplain, meaning the building, not the parking, would have to be raised up about 5 feet, 5.5 feet. The site is also on the historic register, but if no state or federal monies are used, then there are no restrictions. There's a 200-foot buffer from the creek. There's an 85-foot height limit, which means we could go as many stories as well, not as many, but we could go to 6, 7 stories pretty easily. But keeping in mind that we're only talking about 34,000 square foot building, so as it would get narrower and narrower and less efficient if you went too much higher. So maybe 4 stories would be appropriate. Our test fit was for 3. It has urban core zoning, and it has existing parking on site that could be shared with the barn. So the approximate footprint for this diagram you're going to see is 15,700 square feet. The approximate building height is about 44 feet, and again, that's 3 stories. With a typical floor to floor height of 14 feet, which is what we would want to see in an office building like this. The construction cost is between 32.5 and 38.5 million. This one's a higher construction cost because there's the larger site to be developed, as well as we have to raise that building up out of the floodplain. And then the total project cost, it's all right, of 48 to 57.75 million. And then here are some images of that. This, just to make everybody aware, we did change the parking lot after the feedback from the task force. The parking lot used to be an L shape and went into the field. We actually moved it a little bit closer to the building, and we still get the same number of parking spaces there. So this image is a little different than what the task force saw, just making everybody aware. But again, most of the communities, all the community functions are on the first floor, and then there is some city hall functions on the first floor as well, and the second and third floor. And then we moved it up to the corner to give it that urban presence, but also to help kind of buffer the busy intersection from that field to maybe give it a little bit more, freedom and a little bit more privacy to that field. And then again, it's just a rendering of what it could look like. We haven't talked to anybody about it. And so police renovations, this is timelines that could potentially be 2.5 to 3.5 years. So that includes figuring out your funding, hiring an architect, doing the design, and then a phased construction process. Because remember, the police are going to be living in this building while you're renovating it. So that's why that time frame is 2.5 to 3.5 years. To build a new city hall is 3.5 to 4 years. Because again, you have to figure out your funding, and if you're going to run a bond, that's probably not for a couple of years yet. And then a year for design process and 1.5 to 2 years for construction. And then relocated City Hall, if we were to move City Hall out of where it is now and relocate it to a lease space, that's about a 13-month process to get all of that done from today. And then again, we go to the cost estimates with the police renovations being 15.4 to 26.4 million, depending on the option you select. The City Hall South side is 44.25 million to 53.25 million, and the Pickering is 48.25 to 57.75 million dollars. Am I doing this part, or are you doing this? Oh, Eric.
Actually,
is.
I think.
Awesome.
Thanks. First, before I get into sort of a summary of this, I just wanted to echo what Autumn and Mike have said, which is, we really appreciate the fact that 18 or 20 of our fellow community members and all volunteers have agreed to and spent quite a bit of their time on this. There was a lot of spirited discussion, and a lot of minds were changed in various directions. So it was very, very open and candid, and everything was done in a very transparent way. If we can go to the next slide, I can sort of recap a little bit here, just to put some meat on the bones of what we were looking at for both the City Hall South site and the Pickering site. We looked at sort of pros and cons of each and split into two groups to do that. For the City Hall South site, we said there were some real advantages there in terms of connecting to existing services, maintaining the legacy of having City Hall in Old Town, its proximity to current transit, sort of a synergy of government business and services in that region. It's walkable, potentially less expensive than the Pickering site. It enhances the city's image in the Old Town location and kind of reinforces the importance of Old Town and its vitality. And it is proximate to the police station, and it would preserve the Pickering site for future opportunities. On the sort of challenges side of things, as has been noted, the fit would be, as we termed it, cozy. We have some existing access and traffic issues. It would represent a status quo, which could be a positive or a negative. We've got some parking challenges. It's a little less convenient for customers in terms of in and out and the speed of getting services. And there are some site limitations for creating somewhat of a plaza associated with a sort of a civic center. And it could be a site for something else if we don't build there. Moving on to the Pickering site, we felt that there was good access there from existing roadways. We could share parking with the Pickering Barn and Farmers Market. It's near Pickering Trail, Issaquah Creek, parks and retail, specifically Costco. As Lori noted, a taller building is possible. And also with the greater space available on the site, there's an opportunity for more flexible space. It is scalable in case in the future we need to expand the City Hall. And there are synergies potentially with Pickering events and the Farmers Market. It's also closer to potentially where light rail and future growth of central Issaquah would be. In terms on the sort of the downside here, the cons, it would remove the green space that exists there, which many people enjoy. It's potentially going to be more expensive than the City Hall South site. It might be difficult to receive state and federal funds, given the historic nature of that property. It's not currently near residential areas or current transit. It probably would take a little bit longer to build and possibly have a lower overall economic impact on the city as opposed to an Old Town location. So next slide, please. So to recap the community benefits of what we discussed over our 7 meetings, police and community safety was huge for all of us. I think we all came away from our tours of the police facility with a sense of urgency about fixing the problems there. We have the opportunity to create excellent customer service for decades, to create substantial community meeting spaces, to create civic spaces that are near services and open space. And throughout our discussions, we really leaned in on our fiduciary responsibility to carefully consider what taxpayer dollars would be spent on. And finally, creating places, a legacy for the future generations, and an opportunity to really enhance the reputation, the presence of our city as it grows into the future. So I think on the next slide, Lori will talk about timing and next steps. Thank you.
Or Autumn.
Thank you so much, co-chairs. So as far as next steps, administration plans to return to the October 13th Committee of the Whole meeting for further discussion and feedback. This is the first time that you're seeing this material tonight. We wanted to give you some time to digest it. I do want to reiterate, this really was the first time we've talked to the community about this and really engaged the community about our space needs. And I'm just so grateful for all of the feedback that the task force members have provided and their insight. Also, we came out of this process with a site we were not really considering before, and that's in Pickering. So also just shows the power of community engagement. So also really grateful for that work. With that, we're here just to, again, have you receive the report and provide any initial feedback.
Thank you very much, Director Monahan. So feedback, it sounds like we're at the beginning of a complicated and long process. And what are your initial thoughts on this? Deputy Council President?
Yeah, thank you. This was a really meaty report to read through. I really appreciate the work of the task force. Very, very thoughtful. It was clear that there was a lot of discussion and that the recommendations had really been well thought out. I'm really interested to learn more, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, on October 13th about the proposed phasing of the project. What does that mean in terms of construction, but also what does that mean in terms of funding? And what would that mean in terms of our employees and the impact on them and so forth? So again, I realize we're going to be discussing this in much more depth on October 13th, but I would appreciate a deeper discussion of that at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall?
Thank you. I just wanted to say I had a great time serving on this task force. Some familiar faces and lots of new voices at the table too, and the kind of breadth of relevant experience and understanding of the individuals who were sat with us in Tibbetts Creek Manor to talk about these difficult questions is exactly what this process needed. So I was really happy about that. Big thank you to everyone who was involved in the process. To our staff, to Autumn and Jeannie and our consultants for helping us navigate that. And we even had, some public commenters and members of community engaged in it as well, and that was great. And also just kind of to initial thoughts before we go into October, I think the task force has done a significant lift here and has taken it as far as it can go without much deeper dialogue at the council level. We've got some fairly challenging follow-up questions and discussions coming before us. And so I think that just makes it so important, which is why the work and recommendations of this task force that have been put together puts us in a really good place to have those discussions, or at least a much better place than we were to have those discussions. So anyways, just one last thank you and onward.
Great. Council President?
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say I very much appreciate kind of the extended conversation that was had by this task force. And the fact that there are 8 members here and on the line that attended this meeting tonight really shows the dedication of the group. And so I really appreciate that. It was very apparent from this report and from the presentation that there's a clear understanding of the urgent need to really improve the facilities and spaces that are used by the Issaquah Police Department. You all saw that on first tour and continued to emphasize that throughout your task force. So I appreciate it. That confirms the work that the council did in 2024. In this presentation, I really appreciated the co-chair talking about the need to develop a comprehensive plan and a funding strategy. And so I would just say, while we do need likely to phase the actual implementation of the projects, I really don't believe that we can move forward without a plan for all of our staff that are currently in City Hall. I know Issaquah has always been celebrated for, and I agree, the idea that we are good at stretching a dollar and making things work. Unfortunately, sometimes we do that until it doesn't work, which is what you're seeing with the police station right now. And thus, I really have concerns that the concept of prioritizing the Issaquah Police Department's needs could be interpreted as moving forward with something that really only solves half of our problem and leaves us with this future idea of let's address City Hall later, or let's address the funding needed for a City Hall and the rest of our staff. So I guess I'm just trying to tee up for the council, but I'm really looking forward to that October 13th conversation. I agree with Councilmember Hall that I really think it is going to be up to us to determine if there is community and political will to take this forward and decide how we are going to move forward with the recognition that we have some very urgent needs here, and we also have some very difficult financial decisions. So I appreciate the task force, I appreciate staff, looking forward to where we go next.
Thank you. Councilmember Mertz.
I just want to add that I think the outcome of this process was really a fairly extraordinary time and place of where the community is on these issues. I think that the lifeblood of what we do as a group of elected officials is try to understand what we're hearing from the community and then crossing that with, you know, the difficult decisions that we have. And this arms us just so well with information on what the public considers a priority, and also helps us think through this, you know, really challenging aspect of where we would want to put a new city hall. And so I just, you know, I thank, being part of this process, you know, I thank the members of the group so much, because, you know, people really set aside, nobody showed up with just an agenda that they were just going to hammer home. You know, we had people that listened to each other, and it was, and I hope this model is used again in the future for other issues where we want to go engage the public early in the process. I think it's a little controversial. It was controversial at the time that we didn't dig into the finances. And so you hear that a little bit in some of the commentary that's going around, but I personally very much support the administration's decision not to try to dig into the dollars, because it's a very different conversation. Start with what the public thinks we need as a city, and then we will figure out what the art of the possible is on the financial side. So once again, thank you to the members of the group, and thank you for the administration for teeing it up this way. I think the product that we got out will be really helpful to us going forward. And like everyone else, I'm excited about the October 13th meeting. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Zhang?
Yeah, I just want to echo everyone else's comments on, you know, the appreciation for all the time and effort that everyone has put into this process, including showing up tonight and sitting through an hour of proclamations before you got to your part. I also, you know, in the presentation, I really appreciated the attention given to the fact that, you know, on the civic facilities, this is something that's going to be around for a long time. It's probably going to outlive, you know, the new city hall is probably going to outlive all of us, even me. And so I think, you know, kind of having that mindset of, you know, what do we want Issaquah to look like in 50 years with the city hall, and how do we want that to fit into that future, I think is a critical part of this discussion. So I really appreciated that that was part of, you know, what everyone was thinking about on the task force. I'm also really interested to learn about the, you know, project phasing and how we could potentially, you know, structure the bonds, as well as potential availability of grants, because I noticed that only one of them mentioned less availability of grants, so presumably the other one would have more availability of grants. And I do agree we need to have a long-term plan for the whole process. You know, if we do something where we renovate the current city hall to fit the police, and then the plan for the rest of the city staff is that they're just going to rent some random office building until some indeterminate date into the future, I don't think that's really a full plan. And I think just, you know, for the long-term health of the community, I'll just give a little anecdote. I remember when I was a kid, we went to Alaska, so we visited Juneau, and we saw their state capitol building, and it was not good. It was like a random, like, janky-looking building in Alaska, and it's like a joke to visitors, and I don't think that's a situation that we want to put ourselves in as Issaquah. So I think that's something where, you know, just thinking about the future of our city and our reputation, not just for ourselves but also to visitors, it should be a point of pride for, you know, people who have family visiting to say, oh, here's our city hall, it's, you know, great, it's integrated with this beautiful new pedestrian park, or, you know, Pickering, or whatever the case may be. I think, you know, it should be a point of pride for the community, and I think we should also be making that case.
Thank you. Councilmember Joe.
Thank you. I also would like to thank the members of the council that took time to take part in this, and members of the community that took time from their busy schedules to help out with this effort. I did have more of a question in terms of, well, let me back up a little bit. I appreciate this work because it prepares us to be ready for opportunities should they develop. And I think the conversation as we as a council had over the time period when we were trying to tee this up was, are there opportunities in a building that just opens up, and how do we leap on that opportunity? Are we prepared to move? Do we have a plan in place that can move everything quickly to take advantage of a potential opportunity? And so in the executive summary, you indicate that the group is also supportive of the city taking advantage of unexpected opportunities. And I was curious if any of those opportunities came up in the conversation, or there was any discussion as to what the city should be doing to prepare for those unexpected opportunities should they arise as part of this work.
So no unexpected opportunities arose during this work that were not provided this evening. It was recommended by the task force that we leverage existing city property versus purchasing and adding another cost. That being said, we're still engaged with our real estate agent, and we're still, looking to see. I think one thing that we've talked about many times is just the limited properties that are available in Issaquah that would be good candidates, but that's something that we'll still be pursuing.
Thank you.
Also, Councilmember Joe, these opportunities, the process they typically follow through with you is more on the real estate executive session side, and just to make sure that, the prices are appropriate for the parcels being purchased if they come up.
Yes, they do come up from time to time, and we need to be prepared if they do. I had a question also about the sentence before the task force. The task force prefers City Hall South site for the relocated City Hall, but believes the Pickering site is a strong option. Was the committee then ranking them 1 and 2, or are they just both equal in terms of opportunity? How should we as a council be looking at those two options?
So it was amazing. The task force talked a lot about consensus. So, if I don't necessarily agree, could I still support? And in the end, there was a vote of which one do you prefer, one over the other, and more preferred the City Hall South site than the Pickering. But, I think in general, and it was just a slight, I'd say, preference for City Hall South. So there was still a lot of support and excitement and interest in Pickering as well.
Okay, I appreciate that background as it helps guide our discussion in the future, and thank you for all the work on this plan.
Additional questions or comments? Thank you very much, Director. This is a process that you and I have started a long time ago as a real priority in looking at our city facilities, and it's been a stepwise process, and it's been frustrating at time, and we'd all love to know what the final build out might look like for a city 20 years from now. So I appreciate your patience with the process, and again, I'm just going to add on to what you've all said. We have a wealth of talented community members who are willing to spend way too much time in a government meeting room talking about something that's super complex, doing their homework, bringing themselves into the room, working with council members so that there's a tie back to our city council. And that's not every city. So I just want you to all know that we are super fortunate here to have you, and have you continue to keep stepping up or step up for the first time. It's fantastic. City Council will have time scheduled at the October 13th Committee of the Whole to discuss the next steps in this process. However, you are also welcome to provide, oops, it's not very helpful if I don't have the script up, feedback. Looking for a motion. However, there's also a motion that we have to enact tonight to receive this report, officially accept this report from the task force as their recommendations. So can I get a motion, one of our Council members want to make that motion? That's served.
Madam Mayor, I move to receive the Public Safety and Civic Facilities Task Force report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any council discussion? Not. See, Deputy Council President? Oh, no. Okay, getting ready for the vote. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to receive the Public Safety and Civic Facilities Task Force report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay or opposed? None. That passes unanimously, 6-0. Thank you very much. And before we move to the next business item, again, thank you to the 18 community members who devoted so much of your personal time to tackle this challenging issue. Your thoughtful analysis has given us options to consider and build on. A special thank you to our chairs. There's always a little bit more work in the chair's seat, so thank you, Mike Brennan, Eric Oleiner online. Thank you for facilitating these conversations. There's a lot of information here and a lot of difficult conversations to be had. And again, Autumn Monahan, Jeannie Justice, amazing team. Thank you for stewarding the task force by scheduling tours, coordinating with consultants, and ensuring this group had the information they needed to make their recommendations tonight. So thank you all. And don't feel like you have to stay any longer unless you are interested in the next item on the agenda. Thanks a lot. The next item is AB 9051, the public safety sales tax, and the City Council provided some initial feedback on this item at the July 12th Council retreat. Tonight is the first of 2 touches on this item. Tonight, staff will introduce the item and council can ask questions. This item is scheduled to come back to the City Council on October 6th for final action. And Finance Director Kristen Garcia, I believe, is online. Yes, she is. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you so much. Confirming you can see and hear me and see my screen.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you so much, and good evening, council, and good evening to members of the public that might be present in person or attending virtually. Kristen Garcia, Finance Director here at Issaquah, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about the public safety sales tax. Most, if not all, of this information, as Mayor Polly indicated, will be reviewed as the item was previously discussed at the July 12th Council retreat. Because an ordinance is being brought forward for council consideration, this is a good opportunity to us to review what the public safety sales tax is, how can we access it, why do we have a need for it, what is the eligibility criteria, how can the funds be used, and then if the council does decide to move forward, what are the next steps and the timeline.
Kristen, this is Tisha. You're a little bit muffled. Just checking you don't have anything in front of your microphone.
I don't. I'll try to step forward a little bit. Is that a little bit more clear?
That's a little bit more clear. You are audible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Earlier this year, House Bill 2015 was enacted providing 2 mechanisms to fund public safety. One was the sales tax, which is a 1/10 of 1% sales tax. If imposed, it would increase Issaquah's sales tax rate from 10.3% to 10.4%. It would generate approximately $2.2 million per year. Up until June of 2028, the tax can be imposed by council action by adopting an ordinance. After June of 2028, a vote of the people would be required. The second mechanism of funding available, there are grant funds available, which will be administered through the Criminal Justice Training Commission. About $100 million is available in the grant program, and that grant program expires in June of 2028. These are 2 separate buckets of money, but they do have the same eligibility requirements, meaning that the city must qualify under the grant's eligibility criteria, even though it does not need to apply for or receive the grant. This is a list of the eligibility requirements which must be met either to apply for the grant or to impose the public safety sales tax. Documentation of the city's eligibility will need to be submitted to the Criminal Justice Training Commission although I don't believe that portal is set up quite yet, but it is scheduled for sometime later this year. I have had several conversations with Chief Swan to talk about the eligibility requirements, and Chief Swan has confirmed that the eligibility requirements have been met. We will just need to submit the documentation to show that once the portal from the Criminal Justice Training Commission is available.
And Kristen, let me just interrupt at this point.
Yes.
Kristen's homesick today. Chief Schwan went homesick from work. She's been with us until like 10 minutes ago when she just couldn't stay on any longer. So she has been, Chief Schwan has been working diligently on these requirements with her colleague, Chief. She is on a WASPIC committee working with the state on establishing the criteria. She has been through this criteria and feels that there are no issues for the Issaquah Police Department to meet the criteria that we have. And she apologizes for not making it through. And thank you, Kristen, for holding on.
Thank you. Well, thank you for allowing me to present remotely this evening. I do appreciate that. Okay, so both the sales tax and the grant have a broad range of what the funding can be used for. My interpretation of the legislation that it is intended to provide flexibility as each community has different public safety needs. So generally speaking, the grant can be used to directly support public safety work, including, but not limited to, hiring new officers, retaining officers, training, emergency management planning, or community outreach. Uses of the grant funds really will only be limited to what we apply for the grant, but we can apply to use that for broad purposes. The sales tax also has a broad range of use and can be used directly or indirectly to support public safety and the criminal justice system, like for public defenders, domestic violence services, diversion programs, programs for homelessness or behavioral health. And these lists aren't all inclusive. They were listed in the legislation, but they're really intended to illustrate the broad, wide range of what the money can be used for. Why do we have a need for the public safety sales tax? As population increases, the demand on our services also increase. The cost of public safety, as well as other city services, aren't immune to the effects of inflation, so the cost of doing business is going up. Legislative mandates like the reduction of public defense caseloads have cost impacts. We want a salary and benefit structure that's competitive so the city can retain and recruit the most qualified individuals. We're seeing continued cost increases in technologies and equipment that are needed to perform and enhance police work in order to keep our communities safe. And police work is becoming more complex. We have the need for behavioral health, homelessness, and other programs. Additionally, our current revenues are limited. Our property tax is capped at 1%. It doesn't keep up with the cost of inflation. Other city revenues like retail sales tax, B&O tax support other services that the city provides. So there's a big demand on our general fund revenue. So a new revenue source would help provide a sustainable path to fund our public safety needs. If the council decides it wants to move forward to enact the tax and adopt the ordinance, the next steps would be to send the eligibility requirements to the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission as soon as they have that portal available, adopt the sales tax ordinance, and then send that signed ordinance to the Washington State Department of Revenue. So the next steps are fairly straightforward. There are some deadlines to consider. The Department of Revenue only accepts sales tax changes 3 times per year. So if the council wants the sales tax to be effective January 1st of 2026, the Department of Revenue needs to be notified by October 17th of 2025. The next opportunity would be April 1st of 2026 with notification to the Department of Revenue by January 16th of 2026. So administration is recommending adoption of the sales tax ordinance. No action is being asked of council tonight. The ordinance is scheduled to come before council on October 6th to take final action. With that, I'll do it. Take any questions?
Thank you, Kristen, and thank you for staying with us when you're not feeling well. Much appreciated. So does council have any questions about the information presented? Councilmember Zhang?
I'm curious, in terms of the use of the funds, is it something, we were just talking about the civic facilities, is that something that could be used for upgrades to public safety facilities?
My interpretation of the legislation is that would be a support to public safety and the criminal justice system. So I believe facilities for that purpose would be an eligible use.
Other questions? Thank you, council member. Thank you, Kristen. There is no action requested tonight. The item is scheduled to come back to the city council on October 6th for final action. We're now going to move to the next item of business on the regular agenda, which is AB 9054.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you mind can I make some
Backing up,
comments?
Backing up, make some comments. Councilmember Hall.
Is it okay? Sorry.
Yes, it is.
Well, first and foremost, I just wanted to say thanks again, and thank you for answering some of my questions over email as well. I'm really eager over the next few weeks to see how our neighboring cities are taking this up and kind of what our sense of take-up rate ends up being. But I did just want to say, just given the demonstrated need that we've talked about on this dais many times in public safety, that I think this should definitely move forward in the process, and we should continue to consider it at the next month or at the next council meeting. I also think that we should try to take some time to come up with a plan for these dollars too. So some of my questions for you, I think, kind of inhabit the space a little bit. I was asking, would we be open to having kind of a dedicated fund for these revenues instead of just going into general fund? And so maybe between, next month, if we were to adopt something, we could work on a plan with kind of clearly defining some of the problem statements that you kind of put into your presentation tonight as well. Kind of understanding really, are we going to use a different fund or general fund, a better definition almost of kind of the mix between, I imagine, there'll be kind of new investments, but also ongoing investments that are happening right now in public safety that would use these funds. So some of these things I think we should try to kind of spell out to keep ourselves accountable to money that we're levying, but then also to have something informative and defensible that we can take to the community as well. Because this is just coming up today. It's their money. It's now the third time that we've taken a 0.1% increase, and so I just think it's important that we do our due diligence in this, and just some general thoughts around that.
Thank you, council member. Any other council members wanting to share general thoughts tonight? Okay, thank you for that. So we are moving on to our next item of regular business, which is AB 9054, the naming of East Sunset Way Trailhead to Bill Ramos Trailhead. And at the September 2nd City Council meeting, Council President Walsh provided notice of her intention to offer an amendment to Resolution Number 2025-16, which renamed the East Sunset Trailhead. The council then moved to add this item to tonight's agenda. I'm going to turn this over to Council President Walsh.
Thank you, and I guess I have to say mea culpa on this one. When I originally read the resolution, I thought by saying that we were naming it Bill Ramos Trailhead, that was just a placeholder, and a conversation internally would have happened at that point. So I didn't recognize the need to make the change during that initial meeting. But I believe it is very important for us to consider the fact that this renaming is going to last for a very long time. And there will be a future time when children are coming to the trailhead and people are coming to use it from out of town who don't know who Bill Ramos was. And so I think the idea of making sure that this trailhead is not just named for him, but in recognition of the memoriam, and the fact that he was our sitting senator at the time of his death. I think it's just really important. So I would like to move to amend resolution number 2025-16, renaming the East Sunset Way Trailhead in order to change the name of the trailhead from the Bill Ramos Trailhead to the Senator Bill Ramos Memorial Trailhead.
Second.
Is there any council discussion? Seeing none, if there's no further discussion, the motion before council is to amend resolution number 2025-16, renaming the East Sunset Way Trailhead in order to change the name of the trailhead from the Bill Ramos Trailhead to the Senator Bill Ramos Memorial Trailhead. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries unanimously, 6-0. The next item tonight is committee and regional reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Zhang.
My only report for today is to announce that the East Side Transportation Partnership is having a joint regional transportation boards meeting this Friday at the Sound Transit office with all the other regional transportation boards. So looking forward to meeting folks outside of our normal groups that we meet with.
Thank you.
And that's it for me.
Councilmember Joe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This afternoon, the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee met. We received a third quarter report from Visit Issaquah, and we also heard a recap of the film festival that recently occurred in August. And we are anxiously awaiting the new Economic Development and Housing Manager, Alexis Fitzsimmons, who is starting tomorrow. So we'll look forward to that staff addition. On the 19th of September, Friday, there'll be a chamber board meeting, and I'll be the liaison going to that meeting at 8:30 in the morning. September 24th, Cascade Water Alliance Board will be meeting at 3:30 in the afternoon. Mayor Pauly will be attending that meeting. Tomorrow night, the Mobility and Infrastructure Committee will be meeting. Chris Ray will be absent, but Barb DiMichele and I will hold down the fort. We'll be looking at the utility rate study for the third time, or almost the last time before coming back to council. A transportation concurrency policy update and a discussion on the Central Issaquah multimodal I-90 crossing study. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Joe. Councilmember Hall.
I got 3 reports this evening. First, Planning, Development, and Environment Committee. We last met last Tuesday, September 9th, to consider amendments to the tree code. These changes came from code users, from residents, interacting with the new code from our Title 18 overhaul in the aftermath of the bomb cyclone, and also just in the normal process of regular removal and replacement of trees. It was a very long meeting, but in the end we agreed with the recommendations of Planning Policy Commission, the Environmental Board, and staff to address immediate needs that have come up. But we also agreed that work still remains. There's a strong desire on the committee to make code simpler and to find that right balance between our ICAP and tree canopy goals and also not being overly burdensome on residents here in town. So while we have this set of amendments that makes our code better today, in December we're going to start to frame some new goals and outcomes for a reimagined tree code. And our next meeting is on my birthday, Tuesday, October 7th, and the agenda includes COM 0173, the fire code permit fees increase in EF&R budget, and COM 0177, 2025 comp plan amendments and rezone. Speaking of EF&R, we have concluded our new fire chief selection process. If you live under a rock and haven't heard this yet, after a months-long process, which included a national search, consultant interviews, selecting our finalists, having a candidate reception, all-day panel interviews with stakeholders, and a full board discussion last Thursday. Will Aho, our current assistant chief for ops, has been selected as our next fire chief for the agency. We're still working on what that transition details will look like, so stay tuned on that. And our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 9th. And then last report, the RIA 8 Salmon Recovery Council. Our next meeting is this coming Thursday. The agenda includes approving the 2026 budget and work plan. Just a note that our own contribution to the budget only increases by $659 to $19,502. We're approving our updated MOU with King County, a funding request to co-host the Lake Washington Science Summit, discussing our 2026 state legislative priorities, and then a few other informational updates. So I will debrief you at the next council meeting, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Mertz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Sound Cities Association Public Issues Committee did meet Wednesday, September 10th at 7 p.m. at the absurdly beautiful Mercer Island Community and Event Center that I'm very jealous that they have and that we don't have something like that. We discussed a couple of tax things, King County Library System levy lid lift update from the library system folks, and then prepping for a leadership discussion with King County Council regarding King County Transportation District sales tax proposed. So it was a real sort of venting of the concerns that municipalities have around tax fatigue in general right now, and how that relates to the needs of the very independent King County Library System and the not so independent King County Transportation District potential. So that was a good conversation, and then we teed up a SCA draft letter to the Washington State Legislature on the indigent defense case standards, and I believe that action will be taken at the next PIC meeting. And then upcomings, September 30th, I guess that's after our next council meeting, isn't it? Well, anyhow, the Services, Safety, and Parks Committee will be meeting at 6:30 p.m. rather, here in Chambers. That would be quite something if it was a.m. Two topics, COM 0174, water leak adjustment policy, taking a look at what a standard policy we should have around billings associated with water leaks. And then we're going to have a briefing on e-bikes. Again, for anyone who's been living under a rock anytime recently, there's a whole new class of e-bikes, and there are regulatory and safety concerns around those bikes. And the IPD has been out educating citizens, and we thought it would be a good opportunity to have the IPD come talk to our committee and help inform us on what's going on for those of us that are not buying these new e-bikes, and what some of these concerns and regulatory statute policies around them. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Deputy Council President.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. I actually have no report on the committees that I serve on today, but the Regional Transit Committee will be meeting Wednesday afternoon, and the Board of Health will meet Thursday afternoon. I want to follow up on Councilmember Mart's discussion this afternoon. I sat in on a meeting with King County Councilmember Sarah Perry that was organized by the Sound Cities Association, again to discuss the proposed transportation sales tax that would support rural roads and transit. And just as Councilmember Martz said, we spoke about our concerns about tax fatigue, competing local priorities, and I did talk about the discussion we had earlier tonight about police and city hall needs for our local concerns, and then revenue sharing as well. So there was a very consistent conversation from Sound City Association members. There were 8 local cities that participated in the meeting. There was also, I would say it was an amicable discussion. Certainly, we understand the needs for rural roads improvement and also the need to support transit. Councilmember Perry provided an overview that I have asked her to share, and so that I can share it with all of you regarding those needs. But it was a very good, productive discussion and agreement that continuing conversations will occur. So anyway, just want to follow up and concur that there are many discussions going on the proposed transportation sales tax.
Thank you, Deputy Council President. I think what is very difficult for the public to understand is that when King County does pass a levy that collects from an area, investments are usually made in all areas of the county, both urban and rural. And part of the difficulty is when all of the regions are taxed, yet the investments go to a portion of the county, in this case only rural, taxpayers in Issaquah do not see a benefit from that levy. And that is not really clearly explained to the public. So if it's service for everybody, pay for everybody, that's one thing. But when it comes to everybody pay and it all goes over here, that's a very different kind of conversation to have, and a very difficult conversation. So I appreciate that you two are involved in this discussion right now. Council President?
Thank you. Short report. The Puget Sound Regional Council Growth Management Policy Board and the King County Affordable Housing Committee met on September 4th. GMPB's items included certifications of 8 comprehensive plans and 2 conditional certifications, along with one of our regular check-ins on the Regional Center's monitoring update. The Affordable Housing Committee's items included a report on housing market pressures and how the shifts for our overall area median income are causing major pressures with affordable housing and things like that. And then we also had our draft legislative priorities. And both of those committees meet next on October 2nd. That concludes my report.
Thank you. There will not be an executive session this evening. Salmon on Sunset was a huge success. I got to spend a lot of time there. It's one of my favorite new events that has popped up in the last 3 years. Just a wonderful kickoff at a more local level to begin the salmon celebration here in Issaquah. And a board member who also is a council member told me that they estimate that they had maybe 10,000 visitors to the hatchery. That's just amazing. So many thanks and gratitude go to the Friends of the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery for putting on this wonderful event. The end of summer also means the end of the season for the Issaquah Farmers Market, so check out the final days of the Issaquah Farmers Market for a selection of your favorite fall produce and goods. The date is September 27th, and I believe council, is that the day, what day are you guys going to be there? Okay. So you could meet your council members. Well, if you go on the final day, and we hope to see you all there. There are some guided hikes with Green Issaquah on National Public Lands Day, so let's all celebrate National Public Lands Day with Issaquah guided hikes. On Saturday, September 27th, the City of Issaquah's Park Ranger and Urban Forest Supervisor will host 2 hikes along the Pickering Reach to showcase the conservation and restoration efforts along Issaquah Creek to support threatened Chinook salmon populations. Registration is required to participate in these hikes, and you can find the details on the city's website. And I think it was already announced potentially by Councilmember Joe, but the Issaquah Rotary Club is bringing back, did you announce that today? Okay, did you ever announce it? I have a feeling I've heard
it was announced, but I did not announce it.
Okay.
Yes.
So super excited to be bringing back this beloved Issaquah tradition. The Run with the Fishes race is a family-friendly event that features a 5K and a 10K race, plus a kids' fun run. And after a short hiatus, the race returns to a brand new location at Lake Sammamish State Park with a new course and a new challenge to set the record for the most participants in fish costumes. The race starts at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday, September 28th, and to register, visit the Rotary's website. And it's almost time for this fantastic celebration of the return of salmon to Issaquah. As you heard several times this evening, Salmon Days is coming. The annual event will take place on Saturday, October 4th and Sunday, October 5th, and we are as excited as ever to welcome tens of thousands of visitors to Old Town to share in salmon viewing and activities. And that ends the mayor's report. Okay, we're going to move into a couple of informational updates tonight. ID 1885 is an informational update on a really small topic called permit process improvements. And we're going to have Community Planning and Development Director Millie Dollywell to present this item. And is Aronia also presenting tonight? Yes. In case you didn't know, our lovely Aronia is now working on this new team. And we're very excited to have her doing a part of the presentation this evening. So welcome, Aronia.
Good evening, Mayor Polly and members of the council and any community members who may be online. So like you said, we're here to present this permit process improvements piece. We were here in March, and so we want to share some additional data and metrics that we've been tracking, and we're, give you a status update. But like Mayor Polly introduced, Aronia is now her new role is permit process coordinator. And this was one of the recommendations from the Raftelis report, that we needed someone who wasn't looking at just each division, but across different divisions and tracking permits from beginning to end. We also have here for questions, CPD leadership team. We have Kristen Leeson as planning manager, Emily Appleton as engineering manager, and we have James Gray as our building official online. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Aronia. She'll walk you through the presentation.
Okay, so yeah, as Minnie just said, I'm Aronia McLean, Community Planning and Development CPD's permit coordinator as of September 1st. And so today we're going to talk about an informational update on permit process improvements, PPIs. And just as a quick refresher, the background to this is that in 2024, the city engaged with Raftelis to conduct a comprehensive review of our permit process with the goal of ensuring that we're working towards performance measures as well as compliance with the permit timelines outlined in Senate Bill 5290. And so through Raftelis's review, they provided 12 recommendations for permit process improvements, and that's what we'll be going over today. So the last time this was in front of you was in March of 2025, where the team provided a status update on Raftelis's 12 recommendations and where we're at with them, as well as provided some data on land use permits and building permits as well, and some other metrics to look into for looking at the city's performance, as well as our progress on process improvements and what the city has been dealing with permitting-wise in terms of quantity. And so today we're again going to be providing a status update on Raftelis's 12 recommendations. And just spoiler alert, we are happy to announce that of the 12 recommendations, we have completed 7 of them, so woohoo there. And then briefly, we also wanted to provide a staffing update. So recruitment for the planning team is still ongoing. So we're recruiting for the principal planner position as well as assistant planner position. Both of those are closed postings, and they're going through the applications for that. We also recently hired 2 new associate planners whom you met last week, Monday, at the committee of the whole meeting. So you met associate planner Yi Chen as well as associate planner Andrew Love. And then me, permit coordinator position, was recently filled as of September 1st. And I've been with the city a little over a year now. And so we'll, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be going over some data and next steps. So we'll start by taking a look at the status update of Raftelis's 12 recommendations on permit process improvements. Starting with number 1, submittal guidelines, PPI 01. This is the key information to the applicant when they're getting ready to submit an application. This PPI is complete. The priority list has been made. PPI 02, completeness review. This is the review by which staff determine the completeness of an application. This PPI is also complete. The 3 scenarios for the completeness review process have been made. PPI 03, applicant communication template. This is the crucial communication to the applicant. This PPI is complete. We've created the templates and are on to the next step, which is implementing communication letters. PPI 04, peer review. This is the items that are needed for consultant review, and so the main priority here is making sure that we're able to identify the need for a peer review quicker, to ensure that we're streamlining the process. This PPI is complete. We've determined the payment schedule, started to implement the latest process based on SOP and flowcharts, and are working on the next steps for determination of sufficiency. PPI 05, internal collaboration meetings. This refers to internal department meetings like other departments that require permitting for city projects. And the priority here is to provide enhanced support to different departments, and this PPI is complete. The SOP and submittal checklists are done, and we're moving on to the next step, which is offering training. PPI 06 high volume mailings is complete. We determined that it is not financially feasible to use a third-party service for mailings, and so we'll be continuing to use in-house postcard mailings. PPI 07, this is a budgeted position that was identified as a critical position for managing projects, interacting as a liaison both internally across departments and divisions as well as externally with applicants, as well as managing the permitting system and ensuring that we're in compliance and working towards compliance with the permit timelines that were outlined, such as the SB 5290. And that position, that PPI is complete. This position has been filled as of September 1st by me, Ronnie McLean. PPI 08, performance measures, which are related to key elements of the permit review process. This PPI is implemented and ongoing. Reports have been created. Applicant surveys are completed. PPI 09 SOPs. This refers to updating outdated SOPs. This PPI is also implemented and ongoing. So we've identified outdated SOPs and either marked them for deletion or deleted the SOPs, and majority of the SOPs have been updated. And so right now we're just continuing efforts with the clerk's office to ensure that smooth implementation and organization of the SOPs. PPI 10, quarterly improvement review. So this refers to our quarterly department review meetings that we have where all staff come together. We dedicate several hours toward permit process improvements. And so this PPI is also implemented and ongoing, and we have an upcoming meeting on November 19th. PPI 11, comprehensive training program. This refers to implementing training programs to standardize processes and procedures to improve the review process. This PPI is implemented and ongoing. We've completed some training on already and are continuing with formalizing training via updating SOPs and checklists. And we really want to capitalize on the fact that we do have a lot of new people that we're getting onboarded right now. So we're wanting to use that opportunity to really enhance the procedures and different materials that we have for training. PPI 12, contract with software developer. This is to fix long-standing software issues. This PPI is currently on pause. We're evaluating permit software needs, working with IT and consultant to assess what pathways forward we can have for either software replacement or upgrading. And we're also working with ECD Gov Alliance to implement those pass-through credit card fees that we've talked about, and the anticipated implementation for that is January of 2026. And then I'll pause here if there are any questions before we move on to the land use permit data.
Not seeing any.
All right. So this is our 2025 closed land use permits data. This is data from March, which is the last time we saw you, to September of 2025. During that time, we had 24 permits closed, of which 3 were past deadline. And the main takeaway here is that majority of the permits met the timeline, and we did have a few outliers. For example, 2 of the 3 permits that we are seeing that are past deadline were just 1 to 3 weeks past deadline, so they were really close. And then 2025 active land use permits data. So this data is from January through September of 2025. We've had 25 total permits that we're working on, and of which 6 are past deadlines. Of which 6 are past deadlines. Of those 6, 2 are legacy projects, which are projects that have additional complexities or are vested to old code or require extensive peer review. So we also want to note here again that majority of the permits are within the timeline. Some are overdue to the fact that they're legacy projects, as I had mentioned. Some are maybe in the applicant's court, and so we're waiting for a response back, and we're keeping an eye out for those applicants as well. And some are potentially linked to other projects. So for example, one may be a SEPA, and the other may be a plat, but it's the same project, same location, but it's under 2 different timelines, so you're going to see it twice. So taking a look at the excerpt from Raftel's report of the average number of days from permit application submittal to approval. So the overall trend we're seeing here is a decline in the average number of days that permits are taking to get approved. And so we made sure to update the data for 2024 and 2025. And then this data looks at building permits in terms of how many were applied for, how many were issued, and how long they took to get approved on average. From that, we also looked at how many exceeded 60-day internal target. And so this is an internal target because as of effective July 25th July 2025, we were able to get clarification via the House Bill 1935 that building permits are not under the same project timelines. And so we're using 60 days as our internal target. And we can see that building and site work are typically permits that take longer to issue in comparison to other permits in this chart, which makes sense because some of the other permits are over-the-counter permits like plumbing. So now we'll take a look at some other metrics to gain a better understanding of how we're doing workload-wise and how effective and efficient we've been. So in 2025, so far, CPD has completed 4,798 inspections, which is fairly in alignment with last year's numbers, and 5,609 plan reviews. Similar here, we're in alignment with last year's numbers, doing a little bit better in terms of we still have a couple months left for the rest of the year. So far in 2025, we've had 548 reviews and inspections per full-time employee, so we're tracking relatively well when you compare to 2023 and 2024 year. So far for land use in 2025, we're at 81% of all land use permits approved by second review, which is an improvement from last year. Similarly, for construction permits, we've seen a slight increase in approval as we're sitting at 84% approved by second review for 2025. So far for 2025, there are 33 active land use applications that are 2 reviews or less, and 160 construction permit applications that are 2 reviews or less. So wrapping up here, we always want to keep customer feedback in mind. Since our last presentation in March of 2025, we haven't re-pushed out the customer feedback survey, but we plan to do so within the next 1 to 2 quarters so that we can get that data, analyze it, and bring it back to our next upcoming council presentation, which will be a progress report in the first quarter of 2026. And our aim here is by then, we will have completed the remainder of the Raftellus recommendations. And that concludes our informational update on permit process improvements. Are there any questions?
Questions? Council President.
Thank you. Really appreciate this. I'll give a lot of comments later, but questions. It sounds like, 7 of the 12 Raftellus recommendations have been implemented. You talked a lot about some of the remaining that have already made quite a bit of progress. So I'm wondering what the focus is going to be for this next period of time until you come back to us in the first quarter of 2026 of making further improvements. What do we think the areas that we'll be looking at will be? Obviously, some of it is going to be onboarding new employees and things of those areas, but what are some of the areas that we think we'll see improvements?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, we're really going to really focus in on trying to complete those by the end of 2025. So ultimately, our main goal is dedicating as much time as possible to making sure that the remainder of the 12 recommendations go from implemented and ongoing to completed. So that's where we're dedicating mainly most of our priorities. And then from there, I believe the next step would probably continue that continuous improvement process and taking a look at the previous recommendations and how we can go towards those next steps, which some of them that are completed are already in that process of looking towards next steps for the continuous improvement.
Other comments and questions? Sorry, wrong questions. Questions, other questions? Okay, no questions, thanks. So there is no action tonight, but if you'd like to make some general comments, go ahead and do it. Council President?
Thank you. I'm usually very critical in this area, and so I want to take a moment to just say these are really remarkable improvements from 2024 to 2025. And that's even more particularly when we think about the fact that there was a lack of staff or staff turnover during that time. So I just want to appreciate the time and effort and focus that it had to take to kind of switch out some of our processes and to really focus on these areas of improvement. We're really seeing the results here. And so I very much appreciate that. I appreciate the detailed data. I will be looking for future improvements here, particularly to the number of single review cycles that we can get to. I noted that Bellevue has recently pulled together a plan where their cross-department coordination of trying to make sure that everything is coming together internally before handing over to the applicant to try and really make sure that we are doing that in a single review cycle. And so I would love to see any areas that we can do that implementation, but overall I'm really impressed with this data and looking forward to seeing where the next steps are.
That's great. Just want to point out too that internal coordination of response is the other side of the coin of getting the complete information from the applicant. And so we do a single response that includes all of the various reviewers. However, there are packages that are complete, partially complete, or really not complete at all. And so a lot of the review cycle is based on that. Any other comments? And then I go back to Minnie. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? I'm not seeing any comments right now.
Yeah, no, I think that concludes the
But I
presentation.
do see somebody else.
Wally?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I just really want to highlight this. You know, this is a tremendous effort. We've heard clear from Mayor Pauly. She authorized the Retellus report with the council's blessing. We got the recommendations. This is people. These are processes, but they're people running the processes. And I want to thank Vinny, I want to thank Kristen, I want to thank Emily and James. You know, this is people focusing on this. And the turnover that we've had in the planning division, some longtime employees moving on to bigger, better opportunities, but also the opportunity, I think, to you know, reallocate responsibilities, bring on new folks. This has been a tremendous effort. You heard earlier this evening from our human resources staff, the hundreds of people we've hired, full-time, part-time. All of this is being done so we can serve the community of Issaquah to the best of our abilities. And the work that our entire community planning and development staff has done just in the last 6 months has been outstanding, with the sole purpose, Mayor Pauly's direction to us is get it done. The council's direction to us is get it done. And I'm happy to report we're getting it done.
Very nice.
So thank you to the CPD staff.
Nice said. Director?
Nothing more to add. You know, like Wally said, it's because of our staff. I mean, they're our largest asset. So the leadership team, Eronia's new role, and everyone else that is engaged and involved in reading those SOPs and their enthusiasm. You know, we couldn't do it without their enthusiasm, and so that's really important. And we give them credit for it makes their jobs easier if they have a template that they can pull out and use, as opposed to recreating the wheel every time. So we're making progress. There'll be bumps along the road and some projects that are here and there, but overall, our north arrow is pointed by this work. And thanks to you all for funding, and to city leadership and Mayor Pauly for providing the funds for hiring the consultant who gave us a roadmap. And now we're just following it. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. And welcome, Aronia. It's nice to see you in here speaking tonight on this team. Very proud to have you. The next, and for staying so late tonight, I know this agenda was packed tonight and we still put you in, and here it is 9:30, and thank you very much for that. So there is no action item on this tonight. The permit process improvement will come back before the City Council in the first quarter of 2026. And we're going to move on to the next item, which is ID 1902. This is also an informational update. It's a report on municipal building decarbonization analysis, and Sustainability Coordinator David Reedy is here to present the item. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. Hold on while I get my slides up. There we go. Well, thank you very much, Madam Mayor and City Council members, for having me here tonight. It's been an action-packed agenda, and I'm excited to wrap it up tonight talking about climate action work and our fuel transition assessment and municipal decarbonization work that the staff have been doing at the city for the last year and a half. So the goal of tonight is to provide an informational update on the municipal building decarbonization assessment following the passage of Resolution 2024-04 in winter 2024. Over the course of 2024, we hired on McDonald Miller Facility Solutions as a consultant to conduct this work. They completed the work and the assessment of our facilities during 2024. Following the completion of that assessment, staff did additional analysis, took that information, put it in the context of many of the other facilities projects that we have here at the city. And then we incorporated a lot of that information into our capital improvement plan. So you'll see me talk a little bit about that later today. Great. So just as a little bit of background as we're thinking about this assessment, this is on the screen our 2022 government operations greenhouse gas inventory. This was the first greenhouse gas inventory for municipal operations that the city conducted. And we are updating our greenhouse gas inventory right now, and we anticipate having additional and updated results for the 2024 year in early 2026. There is a lag between when the data is available and when we can present on that data. But for the time being, the 2022 inventory is the best greenhouse gas data that we have. And so this is really what we're working on now and what we're thinking about as it relates to climate action and in terms of addressing our emissions. And really what this fuel transition assessment is looking at is the natural gas use in municipal operations. So the assessment really looked at what are the ways that we can address and electrify all of the natural gas use across the city. There are additional items that were included in the analysis, as I'll mention in a little bit, including an assessment of renewable energy capacity, EV charging capacity at city facilities. And then I also want to note that the assessment covered all city facilities, both those that the city owns and operates, as well as those that are leased out. The natural gas use in facilities that are leased is not included in our greenhouse gas inventory, as that doesn't is not associated with city operations. However, when we were passing the resolution, or when City Council was passing the resolution, and through recommendations from the Environmental Board, we did want to make sure that we were looking at all city facilities, whether or not they were owned, whether or not they were operated by the city or leased as well. But for the bulk of the presentation today and the bulk of this assessment, it is really focused on the 27% of our government operations emissions that is associated with natural gas use at city facilities. So when we were passing the resolution to do this assessment, this is one of the slides that I shared. And really the point of this is to put the fuel transition assessment within the context of broader facilities work. And as you heard tonight, there's a lot of work happening with our facilities, some of which is not captured on this slide. But on this slide is really thinking about all of the different assessments, work, and detail that we've been looking into as it relates to decarbonizing our buildings. So the biggest circle, kind of the broadest scale we're thinking about is benchmarking. So that's just really understanding where is our energy use at city facilities? How does it compare to other facilities of similar size and use? And then kind of we went more specific. We had our facilities condition assessment, which looked at the condition of all equipment across city facilities. We've done energy audits looking specifically at energy efficiency opportunities and opportunities for us to save energy and electrify specific pieces of equipment. And then the fuel transition assessment, which is looking very specifically at what would it really take to electrify city facilities in line with our climate action goals, and to address greenhouse gas emissions associated with natural gas. As you'll hear me mention in a little bit, there are multiple circles. We could go even more specific than this, right? As we get down to design, as we get down to really specific assessments about what is it going to take to electrify or update equipment at specific facilities. There is a lot more analysis beyond the fuel transition assessment that we're going to need to do. And so really the fuel transition assessment is it's a high-level look across city facilities, and there's going to be a continued effort, especially even as we're thinking about future of city use, additional equipment that's going to be necessary to pull on our electrical power, etc. When the resolution was passed, there was multiple reasons why City Council wanted to pass this resolution, including demonstrating city leadership in climate action. As I've talked about in the past, the city operations contributes generally quite a small amount to our overall greenhouse gas emissions in the city. However, if we're talking about ways that we're going to cut greenhouse gas emissions across our community, it is important to lead by example and show the community that we're not just telling them what to do, but also taking those actions ourselves. Additionally, this assessment helped support city staff to implement efforts to electrify city buildings, to understand what is it really going to take to electrify facilities and equipment, and develop renewable energy projects. And then specifically to help advance progress towards ICAP targets. We have very ambitious climate action targets as part of our climate action plan, and really understanding what is that going to take. This assessment really helps us understand what is that going to take to reach those targets. So the parameters of the assessment, it covered 23 city facilities owned by the city, and that did include, as I mentioned, facilities operated by the city, as well as those operated by third parties. We reviewed what it would take to electrify existing fossil fuel equipment, a high-level assessment of facility electrical capacity, so thinking about as we're electrifying our equipment, is there even electrical capacity at the facility to implement those improvements, or will electrical expansions be necessary? A high-level solar analysis for each facility to think about what is our what is our renewable energy generation capacity at city facilities. Opportunities for electric vehicle infrastructure suitability, and the focus of this really was on level 2 charging, so not the fast charging necessarily, but for fleet use, focusing on that level 2 charging, which meets most of our fleet needs. And then, based on the assessment and staff analysis, some recommended actions that we could be taking as a city. When we got our assessment from McDonald Miller, we did additional staff analysis. So that included identifying priority projects that we thought we could tackle on a sooner basis, that we could incorporate into capital improvement plans, things like that. We evaluated the cost to impact ratio, so thinking about the cost of an equipment change out with the impact on natural gas use of that installation. And then we also compared the costs and the information in the assessment with other facilities assessment and work that we've done. So we have done a lot over the last couple years as it relates to decarbonizing our city facilities. And so we're able to compare our costs for renewable energy with specific solar designs that we have. We're able to compare equipment costs with energy audits we've had, with the facilities condition assessment, and really think about what is the electrification cost compared to, say, the like-for-like change out of an equipment from natural gas to a similar natural gas. And overall, the high-level takeaway is that the fuel transition assessment provided a high-level baseline of electrification projects, costs, and electrical needs. Additional assessment is going to be necessary, as well as consideration around the future of space, future use of space, so the transition of City Hall, for instance, and other needs like that. So now I'm going to start digging into some of the findings, and these are high-level findings. There's a lot of detail in the report attached to the council packet. One of the first top takeaways here is that the cost to transition city equipment from natural gas to electric is significant, roughly between 7 to 10.5 million. And that covers all 70 unique pieces of natural gas equipment at the city across those 23 facilities. A big portion of that cost, $7 to $10.5 million, is related to electrical upgrades necessary at a handful of facilities. So around half of the cost is the actual equipment, labor, etc., and about half the cost is the electrical upgrades required. And there are a couple of facilities that the bulk of that cost would really be seen at as electrification of some facilities, such as the Public Works campus or the Julius Bone Pool would add significant electrical demand and therefore require significant electric upgrades. I do also want to note that the $7 to $10.5 million estimate is a bit low, as we would still have additional costs in addition to that related to actually completing design and really thinking through what is a possible project at these sites. The fuel transition assessment and working with McDonald Miller, they gave us a great estimates to start working on, but we would need to be conducting additional design work, engineering work, and assessments to really figure out what is possible with these projects and make these projects that could really go towards implementation. The findings of the report did reaffirm that the pool, the Public Works campus, and the community center are our city operations' largest natural gas users. And so those are going to be some of the facilities we'll want to be thinking about if we're going to be addressing our natural gas use at the city. Additionally, I do want to mention that the community center and City Hall are the two facilities that have to comply with Tier 2 of the Clean Buildings Act. And as of right now, that is related to reporting energy use and creating plans for managing energy use, although that is the possibility of having requirements around energy use in the future. Based on additional staff analysis, staff have reviewed potential projects through multiple other lenses that I wanted to share with y'all today. So one of those is that some projects had a better cost to impact ratio. So the estimated cost of doing the electrification project to the amount of natural gas avoided through that project. And trying to do a prioritization process of thinking about which are the ones that have that better ratio. Additionally, again, as I mentioned before, thinking about which are the facilities that have a greater impact on our natural gas use, those that are required for Clean Buildings Act. And I also didn't mention that we also looked through the lens of what are the equipment that needs to be replaced on a sooner time scale versus a later time scale, right? Generally, the best time to electrify a piece of equipment is when that equipment is already failing or needs to be replaced anyways, right? And so that made its way into a lot of this analysis as well. I do want to note right off the bat, you might notice that many of the facilities that have a high cost to impact ratio for electrification are facilities that we lease out, right? And for many of these sites, the tenants are actually responsible for some of the equipment change out and the equipment updates there. So generally, when we were thinking about incorporating projects into the capital improvement plan, we focused mostly on facilities that the city owns and operates as well. At the same time, I do want to note that the benefit of doing this assessment and covering leased facilities as well helps us understand what it's going to take to electrify these facilities and cut their greenhouse gas emissions during lease negotiations in the future, and also to just provide those entities information on what they can do to address greenhouse gas emissions associated with their facility when equipment needs to be changed out. Moving on to the solar assessment. So this was a high-level solar assessment of all city facilities, and there is, based on the assessment, it was an estimated capacity, generation capacity of 1.1 megawatts across all city facilities. And this was really looking at the roof space of our existing facilities, not, for instance, parks or any other parking lots, things like that, as part of this assessment. If we were to install the 1.1 megawatt capacity, that would cover about 31% of the total electric use at city facilities. And the total cost of that would be between $4.1 to $5.5 million. I do want to mention the estimated 31% of current electric use. That was at the time of the assessment. As we're thinking about all of the pieces of this assessment together, as we electrify our equipment, our electric use goes up, and therefore the solar would cover a smaller proportion of our electric use.
Sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Mertz.
Thank you. Do we have a payback period on that investment?
So we do have payback calculated for all of the different estimated projects. For the most part, it's somewhere between 17 to 25 years, depending on a couple of things, such as grant support, federal tax incentive supports, things like that.
And this one is also in that broad category of 17 to 25 years?
Yes, for the solar projects.
Okay.
And that would be if we fully funded the projects ourselves and
Got
didn't
it.
get grants.
Okay, thank you.
So we have been investing in solar projects over this biennium. So the Office of Sustainability has, in our budget, put funds towards solar projects. And as you'll see in a little bit, we are moving forward with 2 solar projects currently, one at the Issaquah Senior Center and one at Pickering Barn. And this slide is really just meant to highlight that if we continue investment at the current rate that we are operating on, we could potentially add additional projects such as Public Works, but if we were to prioritize renewable energy investments with funding, then there are additional projects that we could explore, such as at City Hall, the Parks and Facilities Shop, or the Julius Bohm Pool as well. A couple considerations when we think about our renewable energy generation, as well as supporting some of these projects. Our facility use is in flux, as you've heard about quite a bit tonight, right? And so as we think about the future use of facilities, how those facilities are going to be changing, what the work at those facilities is going to look at, we want to be really thoughtful and considerate about where we're investing our funds and on what projects, so that we get to do those projects once instead of necessarily putting up solar panels, taking them down, putting them back up, things like that. Additionally, state support for clean energy does seem secure for the time being, but additional support is uncertain, and that does create some considerations for us as we think about how we want to fund these projects. Right now, we have a mix of funds for our 2 current projects from state funds, as well as federal tax credits and support from PSE. And so as we're thinking about the multiple funding streams that could support these projects, state support seems more secure. Additional support is less secure right now. Additionally, we do need to very closely coordinate these projects within other city facility limitations and considerations. So thinking about the structural limitations and ability of our facilities, existing and future energy use. So again, as I mentioned, as we are electrifying our equipment, our energy use those facilities, electrical use will increase, and so we want to make sure that we're thinking carefully about that as well. And then net metering is the system that PSE has to allow for to allow the city to take full advantage of the energy generated at renewable energy systems. And so keeping updated on how PSE is changing their net metering policies now and in the future is going to be really critical to think about where we prioritize these projects and how we prioritize them. For EV charging, this was generally the findings here are fairly high level. Many facilities do have electrical capacity for additional level 2 EV chargers. However, equipment and electrical capacity upgrades would generally be necessary for many sites already with level 2 chargers. And then as we think about putting in any fast chargers, especially to support things like our heavy and medium and heavy duty fleet, or for instance for police electric vehicles down the line, some of those electrical upgrades would be necessary to allow for the installation of that equipment. Additionally, electrical capacity might be available right now, but there is going to be a lot of demand on that electrical capacity now and in the future, partially when we're thinking about electrifying our equipment, but then also even just thinking about the other needs and demands on that electrical capacity as we move forward, thinking about IT upgrades and other equipment that might need to be installed. So all of that kind of comes together to help us understand that although we do have some additional capacity right now at many of our facilities, many facilities will need expanded capacity in the future. So at this point, I'm going to share just a little bit about how we've taken the results of this assessment and incorporated them into current projects, as well as planned projects into the future. So as you can see on the screen, we have, these are, sorry, got ahead of myself. These are completed projects, ones that we've been able to accomplish over the last year and a half. Many of them are the replacement of gas furnaces for heat pumps. It was putting in some heat pump hot water heaters. And then we successfully completed the installation of 17 new electric vehicle chargers this year at 3 different city facilities. For current projects, these are projects that are currently ongoing or are planned for 2026 as it relates to the fuel transition assessment. We have a solar installation at Pickering Barn. We have a solar and a battery storage system installation at the Issaquah Senior Center. And then our wonderful facilities team is going to be working on an HVAC system upgrade at the community center. And as you might remember from earlier in the slides, the community center does represent one of our largest 3 natural gas users at the site. So we do anticipate that specific project having a really big impact on our natural gas use at the city and cutting that natural gas use and associated greenhouse gas emissions. For future projects, I wanted to highlight all the work that our facilities team in coordination with us in the Office of Sustainability did to incorporate projects into the capital improvement plan. It ranges from everything from pool electrification to additional EV charging, water heaters, HVAC upgrades, and additional solar installations. So we were able to incorporate most of these into the CIP process. And I do want to note that even though they've been added to the CIP, multiple departments will need to do additional assessments and work to identify further funding sources to make these projects possible, conduct additional analyses to really understand what is it going to take to electrify these pieces of equipment, and to make these projects happen. So adding to them to the CIP is a really great first step to highlight these projects, and staff will continue to do work to make sure that this implementation can happen. For timing and next steps of implementation of the fuel transition assessment, this slide is really just noting that we are currently implementing projects where we can. We are going to continue to implement projects where we can. And then staff will, during budget cycles, during CIP cycles, will be able to work those projects into those cycles when able. Additionally, we'll be identifying grant and incentive funding with a focus on Puget Sound Energy, Washington State, and King County, some of the funding sources where we know will stick around and we hope will continue to support our work. And we've been quite successful getting a lot of this, a lot of funds from them in the past. So just to conclude today's presentation, and before I take any questions, I just wanted to highlight the results of this fuel transition assessment. We've identified a lot of near-term opportunities, and these can help us reach our greenhouse gas reduction targets. They'll help us reach our community targets, as well as help us lead by example as the city. Major natural gas reduction is very costly, but is necessary to meet our long-term greenhouse gas reduction targets. And so really, what that means is that we have to do long-term planning and we have to be thinking critically about where we're making investments and when and how we can be upgrading equipment and electrifying that equipment down the line, as well as figuring out to the best of our ability how we can make that possible. And then the third item I want to highlight is that this analysis sets a base understanding. Future of facility use, additional design, assessments, and analysis are really necessary for an in-depth understanding of project feasibility and impact. And our staff are going to continue to do that on a regular basis as those opportunities arise and as we work to implement projects that are in our budget as well as in the CIP. And with that, that's all the slides I have, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank goodness. Just kidding. It's getting late. This council is a habit of finishing up their work by 8:30 or 9, so a lot of information presented tonight. David, a lot of great information. So let's go to some council questions. And I think Deputy Council President had her microphone on.
So David, you talked about the facilities that are run by third parties. Are the costs of those projects included in that $7 to $10 million estimate?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thanks.
And Councilmember Zhang, followed by Councilmember Hall.
Great. I have a lot of questions, so bear with me, everyone. Okay, so first question, we mentioned that part of the hope with this is to showcase city leadership in decarbonization. So, do we have a plan to do public outreach on this in terms of oh, we did this cool project, come check it out and do a public tour? Is that part of this in terms of showcasing our leadership?
It's a great question. We have plans to do that for some of our solar projects. Additionally, through, I would say through public engagement associated with the update of the climate action plan, and then any community engagement associated with our next greenhouse gas inventory, we'll want to make sure we're talking about the work that we've done and the work to electrify our equipment. So we will hope to do it at that time.
Great. Okay. So this is kind of a follow-on to the question that Councilmember Martz asked earlier about payback periods. I'm wondering if we're looking into some potential financing options for efficiency measures that reduce the amount that we have to invest upfront, in particular, solar PPAs, where, we wouldn't own the solar panels, but someone else installs it, and we basically just buy electricity from them. Is that something that we would consider to minimize the upfront cost and be able to do more projects?
It's a great question. I can loop back in with our facilities team on that. It's not something we've considered in the past. It is something that we can, I am familiar with and we can explore moving forward.
Great. Okay, another question. So you mentioned City Hall has to comply with the Clean Buildings Act. I'm curious if, some of these energy improvements, is that something we might consider as part of this whole, upgrade cycle that we're doing with the facilities that we talked about earlier?
Yeah, great question. And as I mentioned, the best time to electrify our equipment is when we are doing work already, when that equipment is failing. So we had shared the fuel transition assessment with Jeannie's team. ahead of the task force. And as we've been thinking about upgrades to City Hall, a lot of this information was able to kind of be looked at that time. And I think as we progress down, an actual project and design for any of that project, we'd be able to incorporate this work directly into that design to think about, where are our opportunities there.
Great. Love to hear that. Okay, last question. So I'm really curious, if we have an expected timeline for these improvements. I know some of them are like in the capital improvement plan. I would love to see kind of, given what we've planned, here's a graph of how our emissions are going over time, which should be going in the downward direction. And also, I think you'd mentioned we don't currently have a, decarbonization target specifically for municipal facilities. Is that something we would consider doing and, having that as something we track and share progress on with the public?
Yes. So I will say we do not currently have targets and goals for municipal in our ICAP for our municipal operations. That is something that we're considering as part of the Climate Action Plan update next year. And so we are kind of identifying what that could really look like. In 2022, that was our first baseline for municipal operations greenhouse gas inventory. So I'm excited to say we can now set those goals if we would like. And then as we're thinking about kind of projected impact down the line, we can look at opportunities based on this work and what's incorporated into the CIP. We will know if those projects are implemented, what that's going to do on our to reduce our natural gas emissions. And so we could kind of project out how that will kind of reduce over time, as well as then what that would really do for our municipal greenhouse gas emissions.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to reviewing the updated climate action plan when that comes to us.
Likewise.
Thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Hall.
Yeah, just really quick. Thank you. I'm somewhat regularly reminded by members of the fire service of kind of the emerging risk of battery fires. So I'm just, as we continue to implement battery storage over time, I'm just curious, are we engaged with EFR just in terms of how they standardize their responses, how they know where batteries are just in the first place?
Yeah, so I can speak mainly towards municipal projects related to batteries. So we have one project right now that would install a battery at the Issaquah Senior Center, funded 100% through grant funds from the Washington State Department of Commerce. Part of the idea with that solar and battery storage project is that it would allow operation of the facility even during power outages, such as we saw during the bomb cyclone, during dark weather days in the middle of winter, about 48 hours of operation. In the middle of the summer, when the sun is shining, it would allow this center to operate almost indefinitely while during the summertime. For that project, we've engaged EFR right at the beginning as we're thinking about the design for that battery, as we're thinking about where to place that battery. The fire codes around battery placement and battery safety are emerging, and EFR in Issaquah has not done I've been told has not done a commercial battery of that size before, and so we are actively engaging with them and are going to have many conversations to make sure that that project is implemented in a way that remains safe for our Issaquah Senior Center and safe for our community. So it is something we're exploring and learning about, and I believe EFR as well as PSC is exploring and learning about at the same time.
Other questions? Thank you. That was great information. You guys are doing fabulous work, and you've provided a lot for the council to think about in your report out on the progress of the decarbonization analysis. So if there's no other questions, we're going to, yeah, so that's not in my script. So that's why I keep missing it. I'm sorry. We've gone through questions. Would you like to make comments? Council President, Deputy Council President.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to appreciate this information. I think as we look at climate action in the city and decarbonization, we really started out with the Issaquah Climate Action Plan, taking a greenhouse gas inventory, which are necessary starting components. This creates this next reality for us. And I really appreciate the idea of, hey, one of the action items is going to be adding some of these items to our capital improvement plan. And then we have to find the funding for that. And I appreciate that the sustainability team has always been really fantastic at that portion as well. But I really appreciate the details in here about where our next steps are and how we're going to get to the goal that we've established. So thank you.
Deputy Council President.
So my concern has been for a long time about these facilities that are managed by third parties. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are nonprofits who have limited income, and most of them have signed contracts that make them responsible for the maintenance of the buildings. And so I think this is and on top of that, these buildings are getting older. And on top of that, they're often historically important, or they're landmark buildings for the community. So I see this as a really good opportunity for the city to begin to have conversations with those particular organizations about how can we how could I say this, have a conversation about how we go forward in partnership, because these have been good nonprofit supporters of the cities for a long time. They provide services to the cities. They probably do not have the capacity to take on a very, very expensive project and upgrade their facility, partly because in addition to changing over to electricity, probably would involve a lot of other work in the building as well. So we're talking very expensive projects. So at any rate, I would hope that the city would take this opportunity to have those conversations, look at how we can work together. The contracts were often written decades ago, have not been upgraded, have not been talked over to see how we can, in some cases, make the nonprofits more responsible, but also in other cases, look at what is the role and responsibility of the city to help them with this conversion. And then other things that need to be done as well. So at any rate, I just wanted to be sure that we've got that on our radar. And that's the reason I was asking, is it part of that $7 to $10 million estimate? Because if we are in fact wanting to move forward, we need to think about what part of that is the city's responsibility. So that's it.
Other comments? Councilmember Zhang.
Yeah, I just want to give a huge kudos to David and Stacy for all their work on this. Through my day job, I work with a lot of companies that have a lot of buildings, and there's very few of them that take an actual portfolio-wide approach to what they're doing. They're more just like reacting to whatever incentives just happen to be out there in the market on any given day. So I think the fact that we've actually done this whole inventory, we know where the big emitters are, and we're really kind of seeking, I think the best way to put it is that a lot of people are kind of just like, oh, this is the easiest project, and so we're going to do that. And we're like, no, these are the hardest ones that are going to have the biggest impact. So that's what we really need to spend our time and effort on. So I want to give huge kudos to that, because that is so rare, and being proactive and doing that. And as I mentioned before, really interested to see how this comes out in our next climate action plan, which should be coming to us in the next few months. But yeah, Issaquah, I think we pride ourselves on our leadership in climate action, and this is just the latest testament of that. So thank you.
That's great. Additional comments? Thank you both. Thanks for staying with us in the late hour. You are the last item on our agenda. So no action on this one tonight. We're going to move into good of the order. And I do have some upcoming council meeting announcements, but does anybody have anything else for good of the order?
Mayor, did you attend the mayor's luncheon on Friday, the 12th?
The mayor's luncheon on Friday the 12th. The leadership eat side?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to report out anything from that?
I will. It is great. This is, I think, the 20th anniversary of this program. We did have, it's where the graduates of the Leadership Eastside program, which is a nonprofit that provides training in adaptive management, a really important skill set for anyone in leadership. And they have been doing it through a 2-year program. They are switching to a 1-year program. The mayors come to the graduation to talk about leadership as a panel, but also to share a charge out to the graduates. So that is always fun. There was an interesting conversation at lunchtime that was not part of the panel. That was about equity. I questioned whether or not, I'm so proud we have this in the East Side, but we have it because we have the ability to have it. We have cities and nonprofits that can afford to send people through this program, and I questioned whether or not we can help kickstart some opportunities in the South End cities that do not have a similar program and need it just as much as we do. So we had some very interesting conversations with the I don't know what you call the chancellor of Cascadia College. I'm not really sure what his official title was, so that was quite fun. And also today I did attend the memorial service for Susan Neville. I apologize, I forgot to bring a beautiful booklet that they put together, but she was one of the original founders of Save Cougar Mountain, and there were folks today there from that organization, and her husband did a fabulous job sharing her contributions to many different causes that she had through her life, but also a huge shout out for Save Cougar Mountain. So that was pretty good. Any other go to the order items? Thank you. The upcoming meetings, there's a committee of the whole on Monday, September 29th, and the anticipated agenda items include the Central Issaquah Multimodal I-90 Crossing Study Update, Metro Flex contract options, amendments to financial policy and travel procurement card policies. The next regular City Council meeting is Monday, October 6th. Prior to that meeting at 5:30 p.m., and we'll have to reconfirm this. This was to be the celebration of the renaming of the East Sunset Way Trailhead, but I'm not sure if that, based on changes tonight, if that is still going to be the date, but we'll leave it as the date. Ordering the signage? Okay, great. Thank you, Wally. And at the 7 p.m. regular meeting, the anticipated agenda items include Title 18 Tree Code Update. There's been a lot of conversation about that. Public Safety Sales Tax, final action. So there is no executive session this evening, and we are adjourned at 10:06.